the truth. It's different when the facts come out.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here Thursday morning, March 5th. We appreciate you because we know you got many choices to make every single day, and we're super grateful that you choose to spend some time with us. So thanks for being here. You know the drill. Tapping is clapping, liking is loving, sharing is caring. There's a gifting goal today. Please help us out with that. We've been getting suppressed like crazy. I posted a video yesterday. I got 27 views, something like that. So we need your help. If you appreciate what we do here, the best way to support the channel is by engaging with the live, gifting, tapping, liking, sharing, in particular, reposting, whatever that might look like. Big day over the past couple of days in support of our Do Something tour. As you know, your boys hit the road over the course of the summer, starting in March. I'll be in New York for the No Kings event, along with a whole bunch of other TikTok friends, which is going to be great. People that you feel like you know, that you get to know in this space. You actually get to see people in person for the first time, which is wild. So that's coming up. Events over the summer, and then the road trip itself will probably start later in the summer. Without question, by September, my plan is now to be on the road for 2 months leading up to Election Day. Going to cover as much of the country as I possibly can. I'll be in D.C., I'll be in swing states, I'll be talking to voters. So if you'd like to support that cause, you can do so at Factsstillmatter, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. We are marching towards 25K. Thank you all in advance. Thank you for the people who've contributed so far. Also, speaking of Do Something Tour, if you go to the link tree that's in my bio, the first link that you'll find will be the Do Something Tour Instagram page. Please follow along there. We'll be posting content, quite a bit of content for there over the course of over the summer, over the course of the next few weeks and months, as we provide more details on the road trip, tour stops, destinations, locations. Also in the Facts merch store, you can find the Do Something Tour swag, which is really cool. Go check that out. You'll find that at Facts HQ. Also, please consider joining our Discord. The Discord is kind of the hub of our information. That's the spot to go if there's any questions, concerns, comments, feedback about the show. You can find that link in the link tree that's in my bio as well. Or if for some reason it doesn't work, just copy the URL, post it into a browser that will open Discord. Or worst comes to worst, reach out to one of our amazing moderators and they can help you out. So thank you for being here. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you. A lot to cover today. We may have a special guest coming up in a little while. I'll let you know about that as we get a little bit closer, but we've got a lot to cover. Yesterday, we spent a lot of time talking about, thank you. We talked about Kristi Noem. Well, she appeared before the Senate. She has now appeared before the House. That was yesterday. Going to play some sound from that. We're going to get back into the Jeffrey Files coverage because it is now day 76 of the Trump administration, the federal government violating the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which is a violation of federal law. And we're going to break down elements of fascism because it's here. The reason I wanted this headline today, the choice is clear, because come Election Day, you have a clear choice. Yes, I know we are now in primary season. Yes, I know that we may not have gotten the results that we like so far. Yes, I know all those things are true. But we are now in a fascist state. We're going to go through some of the tenets. We're going to make sure that we're reminding people what it is that we're discussing. It's not like I want to engage in having reminders of people of our fascistic state that we live in, but it's necessary because we cannot let it go by the wayside, so to speak. So we'll get into all of that. I want to start with some disturbing vote actually that happened in the House yesterday. Two, in fact. The War Powers Resolution got defeated, and there was an opportunity to address sexual misconduct in the House, and it failed. House bats down. This is reporting by The Hill. House bats down Nancy Mace's effort to reveal sexual misconduct allegations against members of Congress. The House on Wednesday batted down an effort from Rep. Nancy Mace to publicly release all reports on file with the House Ethics Committee on investigations into members of Congress regarding allegations of sexual harassment of staff, of a sexual relationship with a member of their staff. In a vote, 357 to 61, 357 to 65 to 1 person abstained or was non-present. The chamber moved to refer the matter to the House Ethics Committee, a move that essentially kills the effort. 38 Republicans and 27 Democrats voted against the referring resolution to the panel. Members who voted with Mace included members who have Members who voted with Mace included members who have faced scrutiny over their own conduct, such as Rep. Corey Mills, Republican of Florida. The resolution directs the Ethics Committee to make public within 60 days after the adoption all reports including any conclusions, draft reports, recommendations, attachments, exhibits, and accompanying materials with the personally identifiable information of victims or alleged victims redacted, related to the committee's investigations into violations regarding alleged sexual harassment or sexual misconduct. Mace, who has made her personal stories of sexual assault and dating violence central to her political identity, had filed and moved to force action on her resolution in the wake of Rep. Tony Gonzalez facing increasing scrutiny over allegations that he had an affair with one of his congressional staffers, who later died in September of 2025 after setting herself on fire. Quote, Congress has been sweeping this under the rug for far too long. Tony Gonzalez may be the latest example, but he's not the only one. Mace said in a statement on Tuesday after she moved to force action on the resolution, staff deserve to come to work without being harassed by their bosses. Women deserve to be safe, and the American people deserve to know when their so-called representative is abusing power instead of serving their constituents. No more hiding, no more excuses. It's time to end the cover-up and drag the truth into the light. We will get the names of everybody involved. We'll share that with you. It's disturbing. I can't say that I'm surprised by it, as we discussed many, many times. The system built by people who look like me to benefit people who look like me, to protect people who look like me, white men in particular. So let's revisit the Tony Gonzalez situation, because there is some new information connected to that. And the timing is suspect because it happens to be after the election on Tuesday night, when he is now going to be in a runoff. So I just want to remind people of what the story is. Police have released the report from the Uvalde Police Department detailing the 2025 incident in which Regina Santos Aviles, a district office director for Gonzalez, set herself on fire and later passed away. The report states she told officers she did this after learning about personal betrayals in her life. Newly released text exchanges show Gonzalez, a married congressman, asking Santos for a, quote, sexy pic, and sent other explicit messages in May of 2024, which she pushed back against as, quote, too far. Republicans and some Republican colleagues, including Nancy Mace and others, are publicly demanding on Gonzalez to resign amid the controversy over his interactions with the aide. Reports indicate mounting Republican criticism beyond just his own camp, with blowback from GOP leadership and others urging resignation or ethical scrutiny, with the exception being Mike Johnson. The controversy has become a major political issue in Texas and national GOP politics, especially since Gonzalez had previously faced primary challenges and represents a competitive district. His political responses have included demanding transparency around the police report and denying wrongdoing, though critics say the text and revelations warrant further accountability. In May of 2024, text message exchanged between Rep. Gonzalez and his then regional district director, Regina Santos Aviles, showed Gonzalez asking for a, quote, sexy pic, making other explicit requests late at night, even after she said the conversation had gone too far. Separate reporting indicates these texts took place after midnight in early May of 2024. On May 29th, the affair was allegedly disclosed to colleagues. In a group message sent from Santos Aviles' phone, her husband, Adrian, informed Gonzalez' staff that his wife and Gonzalez were having an affair. After discovering the explicit messages, Adrian Aviles separated from his wife of many years. According to some accounts, Santos Aviles' mental health declined in the months after the affair became known to colleagues. From September 13th to the 14th of 2025, Regina Santos Aviles took her own life after setting herself on fire at her home in Uvalde, Texas. She died the next day at a San Antonio hospital. Authorities ruled the incident suicide by self-immolation. In November of 2025, Gonzalez addressed the media about Santos Aviles' death, denying rumors about his involvement and emphasizing privacy for her family, but repeating that he saw the circulating allegations as completely untruthful. I want people to keep that in mind, right? First, I'm going to kind of build our way to this story. So keep that in mind, right? Denials, anonymous smears, whatever it might be. Last week, he was cornered in the steps inside the walls of Congress on this particular topic. Here's the sound.
What you've seen is not all the facts, and there'll be an ample time for all of that to come out.
Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez is defiant amid GOP calls that he resign his House seat after allegations of an extramarital affair with a staffer 2 years ago. That staffer later died by suicide. Since then, there have been revelations about lewd text messages that Gonzalez exchanged with that staffer, including one in which he apparently called for her to share with him a, quote, sexy pic. Are those real text messages?
I'm not going to resign. I work every day for the people of Texas.
It is against House rules to carry on a romantic relationship with the staffer, which is why more and more Republicans are calling on him to step aside.
He needs to answer for what has happened and what he's done. We've seen the text messages now. It's disgusting, deeply offensive.
Gonzalez faces a tough primary challenge next week on Tuesday against conservative candidate Brandon Herrera, who has the support of the...
By the way, that race in Texas has now gone to a runoff because of what happened Tuesday night.
Far-right faction in the House GOP. But right now, the Speaker of the House is standing behind Gonzalez and says that the allegations need to be fully investigated before he calls on him to resign. Why should Tony Gonzalez resign, given these very serious accusations?
There are serious accusations, and it must be taken seriously. But I think, as in every case like this, you have to allow investigations to play out and all the facts to come out.
And if Gonzalez were to leave the House early, that would further tighten Johnson's razor-thin House majority.
So keep that part in mind, right? So yes, if he were to resign early, that would reduce. He waited. The timing is suspect, obviously, because of the election on Tuesday. He was up for re-election. He lost he didn't lose his seat, but he's on the verge of losing his seat. Denial, 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 denial. Not true, unfounded. The truth will come out. Well, guess what? He goes on this podcast. By the way, the gentleman whose booming voice you'll hear, his name is Joe Pags. I happened to end up on a panel of his that he was on, a TikTok panel that he was on a year and a half ago, and he is an absolute clown. To be honest, he's got this big booming voice and he thinks he's got cred. But anyway, I'm going to play this. I'm going to play this briefly because I want to make sure it's very, very clear that he being Tony Gonzalez appearing in this interview, is incredibly dismissive of what happened, making every possible excuse for what happened. So this is the issue that we fight with every single day, that he'll find some way to justify his egregious behavior towards women, in this case, a woman who took her own life, in an attempt to try to just push it away like it's no big deal. He's incredibly dismissive in his response, but he's now come clean, so to speak. So here's a portion of that interview.
You've heard the story by now. His former aide killed herself in the most horrible way. U.S. Representative Tony Gonzalez comes on my show for the first time to speak publicly about the allegations of an affair, the allegations of a boss taking advantage of a subordinate, allegations that he increased her pay because of a relationship. Did any of that happen? Gonzalez speaks right now. Don't move. Was there a relationship with this young lady who was working in your office?
Remember, before he answers that question, he denied it. Remember that. Before he answered this question, he was pressed prior to Election Day. He denied that there was a relationship.
You know, very, very direct, Pags. I made a mistake, and I had a lapse in judgment, and there was a lack of faith. And I take full responsibility for those actions. Since then, I've reconciled with my wife, Angel. I've asked God to forgive me, which he has.
Of course.
And my faith is as strong as ever.
Of course it is.
When you make mistakes like this, you know, it's never easy. It humbles you, but it's important to kind of work through it all. You know, I look forward to the ethics committee starting an investigation. I appreciate the opportunity.
So just to be clear, somebody just said this, as long as you ask God for forgiveness and he forgives you, then that's fine, right? Just confess, pray your sins away. This is why I was mentioning how dismissive this is. I do think it's important that we hear some of the bullshit, because this is exactly the fight that we are in, right? A staffer of his, he abused his authority. He took advantage of her. He did not stop when she told him to stop. Ended up ending her marriage because of complications, whatever. And then she took her own life. And now it's like, well, you know what? I cleared things up with God, so we're good.
To be able to provide all the facts and all the details that lead to exactly what occurred in the entire situation.
Imagine being able to. So there's a little bit more that I want to play from this, because it speaks to the power dynamic.
It's the first time we've heard you respond to that. And it's none of my business what you do behind closed doors. It's none of anybody's business what you do. other than you're in a unique situation as a U.S. representative. And you're also in the unique situation that you were the boss of Regina Santos Avalos. That puts a different dynamic in it. You're a military guy. You're a Navy guy. In fact, you're the highest ranked ever officer from the Navy to serve in the House of Representatives. I mean, higher ranked than Tim Walz, who claimed that he was the highest ranked.
Whatever.
He wasn't.
Whatever.
That said, do you understand the questions about a boss and a subordinate, somebody who has power and somebody who doesn't have power, and why that's such a big problem for people?
It's an important issue. No, it's important. It's a serious issue that we have to talk about, that we have to get all the facts and all the details out there. And once again, I take responsibility for my actions. It's also important to know all the details and all the facts. And
really?
That's what the investigation is going to take place. So far, what you've seen is certain outlets only sharing certain information that is beneficial to them.
There it is.
And to be frank, Joe, this is Pags. This has been from day one. This has been about power and money.
Here it comes.
And you know, while others are
your power and your money and your position. Seriously, you abused your power. You took advantage of a subordinate.
Saw this kind of unfold, the opening of early voting, and you've seen that. And this has been, they've been attacking me for months on this. But yes, it is important that we have the conversation.
So let's level set. There's the victim card. They've been attacking me. They've been attacking me. The press has been attacking me, only telling one side of the story. You, sir, abused your authority. You took advantage of a staffer. You had inappropriate relationships with her. You were the one that instigated this. You were the one that didn't take no for an answer. You were the one that led to this. She took her own life. And of course, it's the media's fault.
On, you know, workplace environment and making sure that that certain things do not take place.
The timing, obviously, and again, it's U.S. Representative Tony Gonzalez speaking out about the situation for the first time, and I appreciate you coming on. When it first came out, the timing was obvious. It was obviously set to come out right when early voting was going on. You still are going to be in a runoff with Brendan Herrera. He got a few more votes than you did last night at the end of the day. And we'll talk about your political future in a second. But the timing obviously was what it was. Were those text messages we all saw where you were saying that you think she's hot, where you were talking about sexual this and that, were those real?
I'll let the investigation play out and share all the different details on it. I will say there's a whole lot more to the story, a lot more to the story that isn't out there. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you a little bit of what's kind of on my mind. When Miss Santos passed away, it was a shock to everyone. Really? You know, some of the reports are saying that she was not thriving at work. It's exact opposite. She was thriving at work. She had just delivered the state of Congress to one of our counties.
I'm done. I just can't do it. Simple question. Simple question. Simple question. Were the text messages real? She didn't pass away. Somebody just mentioned that. So she took her own life. Just to kind of go back a little bit to this story. In November, Gonzalez addressed the media about the Santos Avila's death, denying rumors about his involvement and emphasizing privacy for her family, but repeating that he saw the circulating allegations as completely untruthful. So, in mid-February, outlets published the text messages from Santos Avila's admitting an affair with Gonzalez. Gonzalez responded publicly by claiming he was being blackmailed over the reports and criticizing how the story was being used politically. He also insisted on the public release of the Uvalde police report on her death. Multiple news outlets released the explicit May 2024 messages exchanges showing Gonzalez pressing Santos Avila's for sexual content even after she expressed discomfort. These revelations raised ethical questions because House rules strictly prohibit romantic or sexual relationships between lawmakers and their staff. There are calls from some Republican figures for Gonzalez to resign, citing the severity of the allegations and the explicit texts, even as others support him or urge that no judgment be made before formal investigations conclude. So then we get Congress refusing to act by exposing anybody. There's a multi-million-dollar slush fund used to defend members of Congress in case of allegations against them. So in his case, going on the safe space, Joe Pags is a fucking pathetic fuck. And I got blocked from his TikTok channel. I'll take that as a badge of honor. So here we sit, another allegation, more allegations made by women against men in power. And what happens? It just gets dismissed. I'm just going to pray it away. I'll ask for forgiveness. As long as God forgives me, that's totally fine. Anonymous smears, tilted journalism, etc., 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 etc. Nice, right? Nice. Good morning. How are you today?
Hey, good morning. Just
Hello?
to say, hey, what happened?
Hi. That's your technical issue on my end.
Okay, good. Just to talk about the aspect that they would even continue to do things with comments like she passed away. That's not what happened. This woman violently
took her own life.
Thank you. I don't want to say anything on your live. And then the manner in which is not the usual way women commit that act. Usually women, statistically, if you look it up, they don't pick those kinds of violent methods. Usually.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that road. That's irrelevant. She took her own life. It doesn't matter how, doesn't matter which way. She took her own life.
Well, I mean, I'm alluding.
It doesn't matter, friend. It doesn't matter. She took her own life. Okay? That's the conversation. She took her own life. She was manipulated. She was taken advantage of. She was coerced. He used his power over her, and she took her own life.
Yes, it ended in a negative result. Yes, and he is now gotten his wife to forgive him and God.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for jumping in today. I appreciate it. I'm not gonna do respect. I'm not gonna allow anything other than the fact she was tortured. She took her own life as a result of him, period. Now he can deny, he can deflect. He asked for forgiveness from his wife, she forgave him. Okay. Whatever you do in your marriage is up to you. He asked God's forgiveness. So Christian nationalists in particular, just want to make sure I understand this correctly. A woman that he had an affair with, who was a subordinate to him, took her own life by setting herself on fire, and your God forgived him of that? Okay. Just want to make sure I understood that. It's a tragic fucking story. And here we sit. Congress can't even hold themselves accountable. Yeah, allegedly. Yeah, exactly. It is sickening. It is disturbing. Good morning, Mike. I saw you in here today. Please send my best to your amazing wife, Debbie. Hope you guys are having a good day. I did message you. I don't know if you ever saw that, Mike, but if you did, please just check your messages on your TikTok profile so you and I can figure out a way to talk. I don't even know how to even unpack this story. Like this is where I always struggle in these conversations, right? Because it becomes normalized. It's just so easy to blame the press for everything. It's so easy to say all these things against me is the tilted media. They're out to get me. Like, what? And then just to lie and to go on there's no safer space in that pathetic fuck Joe Pags, right? I messaged him. Let me go on your show. Nope. Then I got blocked. Shocker. Anyway, it is an incredibly tragic story. And I just don't, it's It's not going to change until we address the issue. I want every single one of these pathetic fucking monsters called out, embarrassed, shamed. If that's the best we can get out of it, then I'll take it. Because if members of Congress aren't going to hold their own accountable, this is literally one of those both sides issues. The amount of corruption connected to this bullshit and the protection afforded to men, in particular men in power, primarily white men, is disturbing. If you want any chance of addressing this, then you have but one choice come November. And that's not going to solve all the problems. Believe me, I'm not short-sighted to say that this is going to fix everything. But you can just pray it away now. All right? The ultimate hypocrisy. So as long as you pray it away, you're fine. So in Republicans' mind, I guess that if you just decide to cross the border, which is a misdemeanor, then as long as you pray it away, then you should be forgiven, right? Probably not. Thanks for that, Tiff. I'm going to make sure I have that on the ready. I don't know. So we do need to, well, just to wrap up, this has to do with Nancy Mace's ethics bill. Congress has been sweeping this under the rug for far too long. Tony Gonzalez may be the latest example, but he's not the only one. Mace said in a statement on Tuesday after she moved to force action on the resolution, which failed, staff deserve to come to work without being harassed by their bosses. Women deserve to be safe, and the American people deserve to know when their so-called representative is abusing power instead of serving their constituents. No more hiding, no more excuses. It's time to end the cover-up and drag the truth into the light. Quote, any member who votes against this resolution is voting to protect the cover-up instead of the victims. Nobody in Congress gets to play by a different set of rules. We are going to shine a light on every single case this committee has been sitting on. The House Ethics Committee came out against the resolution shortly before the vote, saying it, quote, could chill victim cooperation and witness participation in ongoing and future investigations. I tried to look at that statement objectively, and I can't find anything. We believe House Resolution 1072 could have a negative impact on the committee's ability to investigate and eliminate sexual misconduct in the House. We encourage the House to refer this resolution to the committee at this time, the panel said. Mace is one of a handful of Republicans that has called on Gonzalez to resign or end his re-election campaign over the allegations. Gonzalez has said the accusations are being used as a political smear and that he will not resign. The House Ethics Committee on Wednesday morning announced that it had opened an investigation into those allegations against him one day after his Texas primary, which determined he will head to a runoff in May. The ethics panel is prohibited from taking certain actions against members 60 days before an election. A system built to protect predators. It's what it is. A system built to preserve white supremacy. A system built to protect people who are in power. The House's Code of Conduct prohibits members from engaging in a sexual relationship with a staff member in their office or on a committee on which they serve, and prohibits sexual harassment of staff. A rule against sexual relationships with staff was added in 2018 as the Me Too movement swept the country. While some allegations of sexual misconduct that reach the Ethics Committee can be disclosed publicly, it does not have to publicly disclose all of them. Keep in mind, the Ethics Committee was about to blow the cover off of Matt Gaetz's bullshit. Matt Gaetz, by the way, was nominated by the president to become Attorney General. Speaking of that, the House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed Pam Bondi over her handling of the Jeffrey files because, again, it is day 76 of the federal government violating the law by not disclosing the names of predators connected to abuse of children, girls and boys. Members of the House Oversight Committee voted yesterday to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi for testimony over the Justice Department's release of the files. The release has gained bipartisan scrutiny as lawmakers questioned the department's surveillance of their searches and held closed-door hearings with the Clintons. The committee on Wednesday voted 24-19 for U.S. Rep. Nancy Mace's resolution to call Bondi in for testimony about how the Epstein files have been released. Mace, a South Carolina Republican, wrote on X that she sought more information from Bondi about which files remained to be made available, as she believed some were still missing. I want to make it very clear. Nancy Mace is no fucking hero. I am saddened by the fact that she is a survivor of abuse because I believe women. It's disgusting that she is a survivor of abuse. And she has said horrible things about the trans community. She has said horrible things about people in other marginalized communities. She is no hero. She is doing her job. We shouldn't be praising her for doing her job. She is not a hero. She was one of 4 that signed on to the discharge petition along with Boebert and MTG. But she is no fucking hero. Do not let her convince you otherwise, South Carolina. She is no hero. She has dropped the T slur on the floors of Congress. She's called members of the trans community some of the most vile and despicable things ever. She is no hero. Are we cool with that, everybody? You guys understand that, correct? Good. Quote, the Epstein case is one of the greatest cover-ups in American history. Mace wrote, his global sex trafficking network is larger than what is being revealed. Her resolution passed with 4 other Republicans joining all Democrats to call Bondi in for a testimony. Reps Jasmine Crockett, Ayanna Pressley, and Jim Jordan weren't present. Republican Rep Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Tim Burchett of Tennessee, Michael Cloud of Texas, and Scott Perry of Pennsylvania voted with Democrats for Bondi's testimony. Where is every other Republican? Crockett, Pressley, Jim Jordan, they were not present. It's no excuse, but they weren't there. Where are every other Republican? Republican reps, again, Boebert, Burchett, Michael Cloud of Texas, and Scott Perry of Pennsylvania voted with Democrats for Bondi's testimony. So far, the department has made more than 3 million documents available. Mace was skeptical that it revealed everything about Epstein. She claimed videos, audio, and logs are missing. We know that. U.S. Rep Robert Garcia of California said he supported Mace's resolution as he's seen questions from Americans around the DOJ release. Quote, it's important that she is in front of our committee. She can directly answer questions about the release of the files, about transparency, about ensuring that victims and survivors are protected. Congressional actions since the files release. Bondi isn't the only public official coming under fire since the trove of files was released. The House Oversight Committee held a closed-door meeting with Bill and Hillary Clinton on what they knew about Epstein. Hillary had pressed the meetings to be public. The committee refused. Internally, the Justice Department last week said it is reviewing missing FBI interviews that included sexual assault allegations against the president. He, of course, has denied wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. The DOJ said in a statement to Straight Arrow News last week that it would publish documents that were improperly flagged. We'll see, right? So she's been subpoenaed. So on the topic of congressional subpoenas, this is a panel that was convened. This is on MS Now, and here's questions. This is the point. This is the point that we're all trying to make here. No, because no one's above the law.
First part has to go to what you said about Pam Bondi not showing up. So let me ask you a question. If the United States Congress subpoenaed me and I didn't show up, what would you do?
You would be in contempt, and we would force you to show up. We would compel you to, or you'd have to go to jail.
So is there a difference between me and Pam Bondi?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Absolutely
so there you
not,
are.
Michael.
So if she don't show up, you get the U.S. Marshals to go down to her office and haul her behind before your seat so she can have that conversation. We need to stop acting like these people are above the law and treat them the way everybody else in this country would be treated if they were in a similar situation compelled by Congress to appear. You don't get to say, I'm not showing up without consequences.
Agreed. After what we've seen from Pam Bondi the first time in front of the Senate, in front of the House, in front of other members of Congress, and the despicable display that we saw from Kristi Noem over the past couple of days, here we sit. So the question then, who's going to be the sacrificial lamb? Because what we are talking about here is obvious obstruction, deflection, and fascism, quite frankly. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, I want to get into a few things. We potentially have a special guest coming on this morning at 9 o'clock. I will keep you posted on that as we watch the guest box. Let's get into the testimony from a little bit from yesterday. There's one thing that I didn't get a chance to play from the Senate hearing. A lot of this has to do with just the obvious corruption connected to the jizz jet, as it was referred to yesterday, or the cock air. You guys are incredible. That was hilarious. Thank you for the laughter, because we all need that, because joy is a form of resistance. So this was Adam Schiff questioning Kristi Noem. This is from the Senate hearing on Tuesday. We got the sound released yesterday.
Let me ask you about a different subject, and that is the waste of resources at your agency, the continued allegations of favoritism and contracting, and let me in particular focus on the $220 million ad campaign, many of which feature you very prominently. An ad campaign that is more expensive than the whole budget for One Fight After Another or any Hollywood blockbuster film. So let me ask you, you said that the president approved this vast expenditure on a media campaign that largely profiles you. How do you know that? Did he approve it to you personally?
Telling the world and the country that we are enforcing the laws in the United States of America. That if you're in your country illegally, then you should leave now, or if you want the chance to come back to the United States someday in the future. If you don't, you will be detained and will be removed and never get the chance to come back. It's been extremely effective in sending the message.
Madam Secretary, how do you know the president approved of this $220 million contract?
We had conversations and worked with OMB to make sure that the funding was there.
Excuse me. I just want to clarify. So you had conversations directly with the president where he approved this $220 million ad campaign that significantly features you.
Sir, this campaign was talking about making sure that people knew that our laws were being enforced.
Again, I want to make sure that
we continue to go through the process. It was a competitive bid campaign. I had nothing of choosing.
Excuse me. So the president approved this expenditure?
Sir, I've been explaining this to you how it went. It was a competitive process.
Well,
the career officials at the Department of Homeland Security
you don't want to confirm the president's role in this, and I can understand why. But you say it was a competitive process, and yet this contract went to a company that didn't exist 2 weeks before they got the contract.
Sir, I can't speak to that. I don't know the name of that company.
You're saying you can't speak to it, but let me ask you this. Are you saying it's just a coincidence? It's just a happy circumstance? It's just a fortuitous event that 143 million of that went to a subcontractor that you worked with extensively as governor in South Dakota or during your campaign, that is just coincidental?
The same process was followed for this media contract than any other media contract that's happened.
Just a coincidence.
The Department of Homeland Security. I had nothing to do, and no political had any.
Nothing to do with it.
No choosing of who the contractors. And we don't have a legal process for weighing in on subcontractors. It doesn't exist.
Excuse me. Just a coincidence. Also, then, that this $143 million.
To ask questions, you should want the answers.
I'm trying to ask a question.
You're trying to say that this was a political decision, and it absolutely was not.
I'm just asking you. So it's just a coincidence that a $143 million subcontract went to the husband of your press person, also someone that Corey Lewandowski, one of your special government employees, worked with extensively. So that was all a coincidence, right? Because you had no knowledge of this, no involvement.
Media company that
and none of the people around you had any involvement.
The ability to choose the subcontractors. We don't weigh in on who subcontractors are. There's not a legal process for us to determine what subcontractors are a part of a contract that goes out for a competitive bid.
Can you state
and only
for the record,
career employees at DHS were in on the choosing of those media contracts.
Can you state for the record then that neither you nor Mr. Lewandowski nor your press secretary, married to the husband of the person who got this $143 million contract.
We were not a part of the decision making.
Can you state for the record that none of you that I've just described had any role, played any part, made any communication with any government agency that was involved in deciding who would get that contract?
To the best of my knowledge, none of us were involved in deciding who got those contracts for the media
campaign. But were any of you involved in advocating, communicating, or expressing a preference?
Not to my knowledge,
in
Senator,
any way
not to
with
my
the government?
knowledge.
Excuse me. Let me just finish the question. Were any of you involved in any way in communicating, expressing a preference in any form, manner, verbal, written, with any government agency that was involved in the contracting process?
The same process was followed for that contract that is for all media contracts that have.
She's not answering the question. So a couple things. This is from her. That line of questioning is what the same line of questioning that John Kennedy focused on, who's a Republican, not a safe space. This is a similar line of questioning.
2 killings in Minneapolis.
Actually, that's the wrong clip. Hang on a second. And then I'm going to play something else for you, because I think I think it's so necessary that we sort of unpack all of this shit from her. The reason I think it's necessary is because when we present articles of impeachment, it's going to be a lot easier to just remind folks what it is that she lied about and how badly she lied. If I can find that. Let's see. Hang on a second here. That's okay. I'm not going to bother. On that, somebody mentioned to me yesterday during our show how they appreciated this one particular bit of sound that we played. And I want to play it again. Here we go. This is a little bit. This is similar. This is the Kennedy testimony that I wanted to play for you guys. Here you go.
$1 billion of taxpayer money. When we're scratching for every penny and we're fighting over rescission packages, I just can't agree with Madam Secretary. The president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly,
Did the president
worked with
know you were gonna do
OMB.
this?
Yes.
No.
He did.
Yes.
I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. And I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe on.
There's the lie.
As I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million. That he would have agreed to that. The strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy group got most of the money, and the head of that is married to your former spokesperson. Look, we all have friends who are qualified. I'm not quibbling with that. It troubles me.
And then, so there's that, right? There's the obvious lie. And then this gentleman is a former, I'm going to play this again because I think it's appropriate now as we get into these testimony. This is a former, his name is Steve Lazarus. We posted this in the group chat yesterday, or in our general chat yesterday. He's a former FBI official, and he talks about what people to do or how people lie. And there are various strategies, tactics that all those that lie do. And Kristi Noem is bad at it. Not as bad as Pam Bondi is, but here's a reminder based on this gentleman's expert opinion.
Anyone a liar, but I do have decades of experience watching people lie. And here are 4 techniques they resort to when they're cornered. The first is deflection.
The Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000, and the Nasdaq smashing records.
Make it about something or somebody else. Try to stop the line of questioning altogether by bringing up unrelated issues, and in this case, really unrelated issues. Maybe they'll forget they asked the question in the first place.
Right.
Next is something called obfuscation.
Is the public going to learn about men that abuse these girls? Like, what does that mean? I mean, I don't understand what that means.
So in response to a question,
that was Todd Blanche,
that's as clear as day, the person suddenly appears confused. And in their mind, if they're confused about the question, they shouldn't have to answer it. Moving on.
This gentleman's name is Steve Lazarus. He's a retired FBI agent who specialized in witness testimony and depositions.
Let's take a look at the overt display of contempt.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files? Yes or no?
Why don't you try spelling it out?
Yes or no, Director?
Use the alphabet.
Yes or no?
No, A, B, C,
Director,
D, E, F.
This is another form of deflection, but with a healthy dose of arrogance thrown in. Instead of answering the question, they belittle it, and they belittle the person asking it. The overall strategy is the same, though. Avoid the direct answer that you can't afford to give. Number 4 is something we see a lot of nowadays, and I like to call it whataboutism.
Yeah. None of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein.
Wait, you think I did something wrong? Well, what about that guy? As if someone else's actions somehow excuse your own. Folks, when you have the truth on your side, you don't need deflection or obfuscation or any of that. You just answer the question. Otherwise, you run the risk of being called a liar, and nobody wants that. What other ways do people avoid?
So, again, the reason I think it's really important that we keep this in mind is that this is the tactic and the strategy from the Trump administration. This is what they're doing. Okay, this is their goal. Their goal is to use all these techniques to diminish the question, to obfuscate away, contempt, how dare you ask me that question, whataboutisms, they're using all of them. It's no different than, when we're engaged in TikTok debates, can't answer the question, what about, war being a distraction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So keep that in mind as we hear more testimony from members of Congress, I should say, members of the Trump administration, cabinet positions, et cetera. So I want to start with, I know a lot of people have requested, we'll try to get to everybody today, depending on how it goes today. So just please be patient if you requested. So in part of Jamie Raskin's opening statement yesterday happened to be in front of Kristi Noem with Kristi Noem's husband sitting over her left shoulder. And this is his intro.
An airborne episode of entitlement, arrogance, and contempt that I could hardly believe. Apparently, when your special blanket, your blankie, was left on one of the government jets and not transported over the new one, your special government employee, Corey Lewandowski, chivalrously stepped forward to fire the 2003 Coast Guard Academy graduate and distinguished U.S. Coast Guard commander in Air Station, Washington, D.C. But then he had to be rehired immediately because there was no one else who could fly the two of you on the rest of the journey back home.
So there's that. So that's how things started. That's about as good as it got for her yesterday. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the obvious corrupt. The easiest one here to unpack is the corruption connected to this ad campaign, right? The love jet. People called it cock air yesterday, the jizz jet, right? So let's go there, shall we? We can't find a website. This is Joe Neguse, all right? Joe Neguse, again, capitalizing on, first of all, she contradicted herself so many times from the great golden age of grifting. Yes, exactly. She contradicted herself, so she told lies to cover up her lies, to cover up her lies, to cover up her lies, right? So this is Joe Neguse, who I love. I want to see Joe Neguse in leadership positions. It's the kind of intelligence, kind of energy, kind of direct questioning. He's got a really, really excellent style that he gets people to answer questions more than others do. But here you go. Did somebody just say jet blue balls?
I'm going to come.
Okay. That's a good one. All right, here's Joe Neguse.
That's why the two of them were chosen. Inaccurate, Madam Secretary. I'll read from the notice from your agency. Given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossings, DHS identified 4 companies. 4 of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States. You identified 4. One of those is this Safe America Media company. Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address that's registered for this company. Do you know where that address is?
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll tell you about it. Madam Secretary, the address is registered to a political operative. Madam Secretary, the company, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board? Yes, that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered apparently or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota. The reason why I ask these questions.
Put them in the jail cell!
So, as someone who, as a contractor, I submit when RFPs are requested, a request for proposal. As someone who's been in leadership positions, I have solicited requests for proposals. And part of the process of due diligence would be you would absolutely know everything about these companies that you wish to engage with. That's just fucking common sense. Okay? That's just the chat. You guys are killing me this morning. I'm trying not to pay attention to it, but it's not easy. Anyway, that's part of the due diligence that you would do. Any responsible organization, right? And any responsible organization would, if you're going to request proposals, you're very detailed in what your asks are. In fact, little side project that Obi and I are part of now. We just went through an RFP process. Very diligent. Every little box checked, every T crossed, every T dotted, every I crossed, as a friend of mine used to say. Those things, right? So you get it, Joe Bess. It's very, you go, especially this is taxpayer dollars, right? This is taxpayer dollars, $143 million. Okay? So Joe Neguse delivering the goods. I've got more, don't worry. This was an embarrassing moment for our country yesterday. Well, it's just one thing after another. Let me get into some more of her testimony, if you want to call it that. Everybody keep talking, please. So this is a big one. Here's the biggest, right? So this is Sydney Kamliger Dove from she's questioning Christie. And I think the appropriate background for this at this moment, by the way, this was my view yesterday afternoon. I went for a walk. Beautiful day. Anyway, here you go. As Congresswoman Dove questions our Director of Homeland Security Secretary.
Why he is your top.
Here you go.
Why he is your top official. So Secretary Noem, at any time during your tenure as Director of Department of Homeland Security, have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski?
Great question.
Mr. Chairman, I am shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloid garbage in this committee today.
Reclaiming my...
Remember what we played before, the FBI agent? Let's obfuscate away from the question. Let's belittle the question. Let's say, what about going to the chairperson? Oh no, I'm getting a hard question that I have to answer, and then I got to ask the chairperson on this committee, who happens to be friendly to me potentially, for help. Okay.
Ma'am, one thing that I would tell you is that he is a special government employee who works for the White House.
He's a special government employee, Christie? How special is he? Your husband is sitting over your shoulder, like he's right back there. Was he special like, oh, I don't know. Was it cozy? Was it special, Christie? How special was it, Christie? Christie, I want to know. Was it so special that you're willing to forego your entire career? Was it that special? Were the lights dim special? Was it mood music special? Was it an aperitif special? Little Courvoisier by the fire special? You know? Okay, just want to make sure.
There are thousands of them in the federal government.
So reclaiming my
as an
time,
advisor,
Secretary, it is okay for you to be offended by the question.
It
is okay for you to be
no
offended
authority
by the
to
question.
be making
but it is
decisions
also
and
a
putting
real
in
question.
position. So what I would say
and
to
you should be able to
is
answer
that
the question.
what we do at the Department of Homeland Security every single
and without
day,
any hesitation,
every single day is to protect
if
this
someone
country
is
and to
asking
make
if
decisions.
you or any federal official is sleeping with their subordinate. That should be the easiest. You should be wanting to answer that question.
As garbage?
Because it is.
I want to give you an opportunity to answer on the record to
Jared Moskowitz. Jared Moskowitz, by the way, had a pin on that said "Justice for Cricket," Cricket was the dog that she murdered. He had a pin on during the testimony yesterday that said "Justice for Cricket." So now Jared Moskowitz is going to lay in a little bit.
Ms. Camlogger Dove's question. I know you said it's garbage, and it may be, but I really think you need to say the word no into the record so that you can clear that up.
I think the ridiculousness of this and the tabloids that you are quoting and referencing are insane. And this has been something that I've refuted for years, and I continue to do that.
So it's a
what
no.
I would tell you is
we can move on. Hold on.
what you're doing.
We can move on. I'm not going to belabor it. If
this is what you do.
Hold on. I'm not doing any of that.
Liberal left.
Socialist.
You go off.
Oh, socialist, liberal left. Remember, we're obfuscating away from the question. We're belittling the question. We're going to find somebody else to attack because they don't want to answer the question. This is the tactic, you guys. This is the strategy. I know you've known this, but when you see it in real time, and then when you hear an FBI agent who's like the expert at it, like this is what they're doing. This is why they don't want to answer the questions. So again, let's not answer the question. Let's just obfuscate away or try to demean someone else. So I'm going to just play this from the top again because I just think it's important to listen to her ping pong away from answering the question as she's thinking about her rendezvous, her special friend.
He is your top official. So Secretary Noem, at any time during your tenure as Director of Department of Homeland Security, have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski?
Mr. Chairman, I am shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloid garbage in this committee today.
Reclaiming
and
my
ma'am,
time.
one thing that I would tell you is that he is a special government employee who works for the White House. There are thousands of them in the federal government.
So reclaiming
and
my
as an
time,
advisor,
Secretary, it is okay for you to be offended by the question. It is okay for you to be offended by the question. But it is also a real question.
So what I would say
and
to
you should be able to
is
answer
that
the
what we do at the Department of Homeland Security every single
and without
day,
any hesitation,
every single day is to protect
if
this
someone
country,
is
to
asking
make
if
decisions.
you or any federal official is sleeping with their subordinate, that should be the easiest. You should be wanting to answer that question.
As garbage?
Because it is.
I want to give you an opportunity to answer on the record to Ms. Camlogger Dove's question. I know you said it's garbage, and it may be, but I really think you need to say the word no into the record so that you can clear that up.
I think the ridiculousness of this and the tabloids that you are quoting and referencing are insane. And this has been something that I've refuted for years, and I continue to do that.
So it's a no.
What I would tell you is
we can
with
move on.
regards
Hold
to
on.
what you're doing.
We can move on. I'm not going to belabor it. If it's
this is what you do.
Hold on. I'm not doing any of that.
Liberal left is you go off and you attack conservative women and you say that we're either stupid
I haven't
or
said
we're
anything.
sluts.
All right, so listen.
That's what you do.
Yesterday,
I will tell you,
Richard,
sir,
reclaiming
I
my
will tell
time,
you,
Mr.
sir,
Chairman.
I
Mr.
am
Chairman,
neither of
reclaiming
them.
my time.
Wow. Wow. The socialist liberal left. Apparently, all we do on the left, the socialist liberal left, is call conservative women stupid or sluts. Nobody made that claim, Christy. You were just asked a question. Listen, if I knew that I did not have an affair with somebody who worked for me, because technically he's a subordinate to her, here we go again. People in prominence, people with positions of power, right? So, if I was asked the question and I did not have an affair with the person who everybody knows you actually had an affair with, if you didn't have an affair, then just say no. I'd be like, absolutely not. I did not. Funny, though, because you're on the record, you didn't want to do that. The reason that you didn't want to answer, Christy, is because everybody knows. Everybody knows, right? Everybody knows. So just level set. Just want to make sure that we're all aware of this. For several years, media outlets and political insiders have circulated claims that Noem and Lewandowski are romantically involved. Listen, I am not here to judge what people do in their private life. Consensual relationships, if you have an arrangement or if you're stepping out on your partner or your relationship, that is entirely up to you. I am not here to judge that. I'm not. Okay? And none of us should, right? To each his own. If it's consensual, they're two adults. If that's a decision that they make, that's the decision that they make. Okay? The issue, though, is she's lying about it because it's not just socialist, leftist leaning media rags that are reporting on this. People say this is like the worst kept secret in all of government. In all of government. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pause right there because we have a special guest. And I want to bring our special guest up to have a conversation with us. Hello, friend. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I am good. It is so nice. It is so nice. It is so nice to see you. Yeah, we are all surviving. So for those of you who don't know, the knitting cult lady, this is your dog is active like mine. Yes.
He's a Republican. He's like a MAGA, like confirmed MAGA, and he's pretty upset all the time.
He's always cranky. Something to complain about, right? It's the radical left that's indoctrinated him, Daniela.
Always. Yep. He's always like on Signal Chat with Pete Kegsbreath, going on about Armageddon and religious war and.
That's exactly why I wanted you to be here today. So most of our chat knows you, but if you wouldn't mind just giving folks kind of an introduction as to, and the reason I reached out is because all of your worlds are colliding at this moment. War, intelligence, cults, religion, the whole 9 yards. So if you wouldn't mind just giving folks an introduction as to who you are, and then we can get into our conversation. Again, thank you for being here. I appreciate you very much.
Of course. Thanks for having me. My name is Daniela Mestenek-Young. I'm also known as Knitting Cult Lady. I was born and raised in the Children of God religious cult. That's the one that Joaquin and River Phoenix were in, that is famous for, of all the things, pedophilia. So all the worlds colliding. I left that as a teenager. I was born 3 generations in, left it as a teenager, ended up in the US military. I wrote a book called Uncultured, which is my life story about going into the cult of the US military after another cult. And most recently, I have written my cult tactics book, The Culting of America. And during COVID, I got a master's in organizational psychology, which is essentially group behavior. And I started writing this book to be sort of like, hey, everything in our country is getting really, really culty, right? Like, let's look at real cults. Let's look at the military, and then let's look at our groups. And then about 2/3 of the way through writing the book, this particular cult got the government. And, I think it's been so interesting how different it has been since the last administration. Where the last administration, it felt bad, but it still felt like there were some guardrails, there was some connection to reality. This time, ever since the first day Trump took office, it has been like we are all in a cult. Like all of us are in this cult that America has become. And, this weekend we wake up to the president unilaterally starting a war in Iran and the military briefing troops that this is Armageddon, that this is ultimately a religious war, which should not be surprising at all because our Secretary of Defense has 3 white supremacist tattoos. He's written 2 books about how we need another Christian crusade. And he is actively a cult member. He's in the cult of Doug Wilson, who he had come speak at the Pentagon. And, Doug Wilson is one of these horrific Christian nationalist men that doesn't think women should vote, wants to repeal the 19th Amendment. And, they are trying to make America a Christian nationalist country. And, as you said, the world's colliding. It's like this has been going on really since the 1930s. The 1930s was a time of social turmoil in the United States, and specifically the type of social turmoil where more people were getting franchised, more people were getting representation, being considered citizens, getting rights. And white America did not like that. Right. So they retreated, and they retreated even harder in the 60s, which was when, a lot of the cults like the one that I came up in started, but also the majority of the Bible colleges, the majority of the private schools, the white flight. There was this movement of, well, fine, I'm taking my kids and going home. And, some of us have grown up and we're the scholars talking about all of this stuff, but some of them have grown up in what is called Generation Joshua, that, the Christian right has been organizing for so long. And under President Reagan, they really got into lockstep together and started moving forward and started raising their children very specifically to be congresspeople, to be senators, and to infiltrate into the government, right? So there has been an extreme push toward that. And, I have been as guilty as anyone else of like making fun of the religious right? I mean, they're clearly extremists. They're meeting 5 times a week, but they're organized, and I think that the left really slept on Phyllis Schlafly defeating the ERA and like what Christian America has been able to pull together. So that's what we're in right now.
And they played the long game. Yeah.
They have absolutely played the long game. And so, part of, I think, what's frustrating right now is people think that one thing is going to fix it. And it's just not, this is going to be a war and we are all going to have to get organized and we are all going to have to figure out how to push back. Because it's not just one thing, So what happened in 2015 is Trump came up and pulled, there were all of these sort of mini cults. And something we don't talk about enough about cults is they can be led by an idea. And I think most of these were cults led by ideas. And I just call that idea racist conservatism. And then Donald Trump showed up and he pulled everyone into his cult, which is a move that certain very charismatic cult leaders can do. This is what the Children of God founder did, is he just went around in an era of culting and had the better cult and pulled people in. The good news is that he's old AF and this can't last for that long. And when a cult of personality, which this absolutely is, falls apart, the power structure usually fractures and falls apart as well. There's no one here to hand it down to. Like, obviously, JD Vance is going to be the president if that happens. But, I mean, you have to have a personality to lead a cult of personality, right?
Right. Something you said that I never really thought about before when you were introducing yourself about how we're all in the cult. And that makes sense because I've been thinking about it since you said it. We, not our choice. We call it out. People part of MAGA perhaps chose to be in that particular cult, but the rest of us have really kind of no choice, right? I never really thought about it that way. Can you unpack that a little bit about how, obviously, our history of what we know about cults, people say, I want to become a Branch Davidian member, or I want to become you're born into one, you had no choice.
Yeah, so... we when we think of cults, we tend to only think of cult joiners, right? And that's what the majority of the study is done about. And I want to say one thing for the record, like, people join cults for one reason, because a cult leader builds a cult, right? And then recruiters go out and manipulatively, deceptively recruit people into the cult. Right? But there are many other ways that people can get into a cult, which include being born into one, which is true for many folks in MAGA, including folks who are adults right now. You can be deceptively pulled in. There are organizations will have false fronts, right? So like 12 Tribes is a cult. Yellow Deli is their false front, is their public-facing, money-making restaurants that are the beginning, right? So people think they're getting into one thing and then they get into something else. And you can also get pulled into a cult by a nation becoming a totalitarian nation, right? Or being born into one, obviously. And that is sort of what we are going through right now. But I will say one thing. So there's a stereotype that cults try to keep, cults try to keep you in against your will. And that is very much not true, right? Cults will try to deceive you and keep you. But once you want to go, they want you gone as fast as possible because people buy into their indoctrination. People buy into the cult. Adults are in cults because they want to be. And I don't know of any cult that could survive with 2/3 of its adult members being forced to be in it, right? And this is true for dictatorships across the board. And let me say here that I hear all of the time that I am belittling this by calling it a cult. And I want to tell people that that is backward, that, fascist nation, totalitarian nation is a subset of cult. It is a type of cult, not the other way around. And so dictators need popularity to rise to power, right? And he had it when he got elected, but he has not done not one thing for his base, right? He has not kept one promise. This has been his revenge tour. This has been openly, blatantly about enriching himself and about pulling more power. And this brings me to an important thing about the war too, right? Which is a fascist needs a popular war in order to consolidate power. And we have seen Trump, just stomping around like King Henry VIII, like, I want a war since the beginning. He's trying. We'll see if this one is going to stick, but it is our job as the American people to make this an extremely unpopular war for him. And, it is not going well. Over 200 complaints were filed immediately by the military about, commanders talking about this religious cult stuff and like
Armageddon and whatever else. Yeah.
His folks are being emboldened. And look, I've been yelling about the US military being an evangelical Christian nationalist, evangelizing organization since 2009. So I'm very glad that we are going to have this conversation now nationally, but like the soldiers are not going along with it, right? Like every single soldier now has the ability to say, okay, I'm out. Conscientious objector, right? This is not, we volunteered for a military to serve our country where politics and the military are separate, where religion and state are separate. You cannot push people into a religious war. That's just insane.
One of the things that we so yeah, I want to get into that because again, your experience is unique. Your time in Children of God, and then in military intelligence, and a combat officer, and now deconstructing, and all these things. It's like you are. If we were to put the Venn diagram up, Daniela, you're like dead center in the middle of it, for good or for bad. I mean, good for your expertise in your books that you write. But one of the things that I think is really interesting now, you talked about the war dynamic and about how we're sort of seeing, the argument that Trump has made in the past is that Barack Obama was going to start a war with Iran because of unpopularity. I sort of see this in a situation a little bit differently. I don't know if Trump is aware of this, but the people around him are seeing the fracturing of the MAGA base. You're starting to see it splinter, the Epstein files, whatever that might be. So is this an attempt to bring the coalition back together? Or is it just saying, you know what? Fuck it. Let's burn it down.
Both. Okay. Both, right? So very, very important to understand. Okay, so I have this 10-part model of cults, right? And my number 3, right about where your throat might be if it was a person, is the transcendent mission, right? People believe they join groups for a transcendent mission, right? Nobody thinks they're joining a cult to worship a person, or any of that stuff, right? It is for a mission. And almost always, especially with larger cults, we see the leader quickly get involved in politics, social justice, or religion, because those are ways to interface with people, but also to give people a mission, right? And so what Donald Trump has told his base since the beginning is we're here to drain the swamp. Right? We're here to drain the swamp. What he's really saying is, I'm going to rain down apocalyptic judgment on your Democratic enemies, right? He's going to perp walk the Obamas and the Clintons. He's going to pull thousands of little white blonde children out of cages where they're being sex trafficked. And as a white blonde child who was sex trafficked, that wasn't how it was, and all of that mission sort of culminated this last election cycle with the Epstein files, right? He was going to release them. That's at least what they made themselves believe. And the one thing that has happened in this administration that surprised me was when they came out so early and said, yeah, we're not releasing the Epstein files. Because I was like, whoa, you just throat slashed your cult. Right. And it has been bleeding out ever since then. This, by the way, is exactly what the Children of God did. Right. So the Children of God our guy was the prophet. We were going to win the world for Jesus because Jesus was coming back any day. I was not supposed to get to be 12 years old even, much less almost 40. And then in 2009, I think as they realized the cult was kind of falling apart anyway, they were kind of like, Jesus told us that he's probably not going to come back in our lifetime. And that just dissolved 10,000 people so fast, because what is your mission, right? You need this mission in your cult because cults are about labor. Cults are about getting hundreds, thousands, or millions of people to suspend their critical thinking and be little walking, working meat puppets for you. So you have to have this mission. Right. So I think they have been struggling really hard. Right. Stephen Miller has been trying to replace it with Make America White Again. But the mission has to be really obviously good. Right. That's why Save the Children is such a popular mission that we find in cults. Right. And so they've been trying. They have not been successful. And so this war, right, this is their kind of final stand, if you will, final attempt. But I also think it has been very obvious that we are in cult endgame since the beginning of this administration. One of the good things is they don't know how to win, right? They're actually bad at this. So that's good. And I keep using this analogy of chess, right? So, if you get to an end game in chess and you only have a king on the board, right? You cannot win. There's nothing you can do to win. That is where I feel like the Democrats are right now, right? Like people keep saying, why are they not doing anything? It's like they have no power. They have absolutely no power. The other side has a king and a rook. And the problem is you have to know how to checkmate with a king and a rook. Because if you don't know, you're just going to dance around the chessboard. You should be winning, but you're going to dance around the chessboard. And as soon as the other side realizes that, their strategy is to get you to a stalemate, right? Which is a tie, and then you can reset the board and start again. So fortunately for us, it doesn't seem like they know what they're doing. Almost everyone is surprised that it hasn't gone faster than this, once they got into total power. He is, as one of these comments said, he's just trying to amass wealth and he's just trying to get revenge. I do truly believe that he wants to be the biggest, baddest dictator that has ever dictated, right? Like that is what he wants. That is what he's trying to go for. But something else is that at the end of the day, all the cult leaders and all the tyrants, they lose for the same reason, which is not listening to their intelligence officer, and not considering that they might lose, right? The difference between someone like me who studies all the cult leaders and tyrants and bad guys and those leaders who all study each other is they all think they're the one. They all think they're the one that's not going to lose. Donald Trump truly believes that he is the leader of the world, that he is the best president that has ever presidented, and that he's going to go down in history as some big hero. And he truly believes that. And so they won't consider that they might lose. And I think that is ultimately the downfall.
Is that part of his desire to build a ballroom and to have the Trump Kennedy Center renamed and to build the Arch in D.C.? So because he's wildly unpopular, he wants like granite effigies to him for remembrance of future generations. Is that accurate?
And I also think that he knows he's dying and he's trying to see his own legacy, right? He is trying to see it and he's trying to make, like you said, these granite monuments to himself. And, one of the things that I keep telling people is like, focus on the policies that are hurting people. Focus on pushing back against that. Like, yes, he bulldozed the White House and that made all of our hearts cry. And like, yes, the Kennedy Center thing is awful, but like, we're going to get to rip that down. We're going to have a moment, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 10 years, but we're going to have that moment where we get to rip his name off the Kennedy Center, where we get to knock down his arc, whatever that he builds, right? And like, he is not going to go down in history as a good guy. So, you know, I think that's something to hang on to people. But I often find that cult leaders will precipitate their own apocalypse. And so the parts of this that feel like they're just burning it all down, yes. You know, yes.
Friends, we're speaking with Daniela Mesnick-Young, author, cult survivor, infantry officer, intelligence officer, combat veteran. She's gracious to join us. It's like the second or third time that we've spoken. We always learn a lot. So thank you for being here. I'm going to give you a chance to plug your book as we go over the course of the morning. Yeah. One of the things that I've wanted to ask you about specifically is in my learning about cults, thanks to you with some guidance, it seems to be the cult leader would be the one that would be setting the agenda, would be the one that would be the most prominent voice. It doesn't seem, based on Trump's failing health, he's not the brightest bulb in the tree. It's Stephen Miller, or it's a non-public figure that is pulling the strings. Would you agree with that? And is it unique that MAGA has that kind of cult hierarchy?
So it's not unique. I think that people think of a cult as like leader and follower, right? And like everyone is the same, everyone is dedicated to the follower. And it's not really like that, right? Like a cult is a power structure that is built. And there are leaders in that power structure that are not the cult leader. And so this is where I get to give you my 100-acre wood analogy. So
do it.
Tigger, of course, Tigger is the cult leader, right? He shows up out of nowhere. He tells you, he makes up his own name. Then he tells you he's the only one. He tells you that there's all these bad outsiders, heffalumps and woozles, and he's going to take you on these missions to go defeat them. He bounces around, creating all kinds of havoc, and he's orange. Okay? Then you got Christopher Robin, who's the skinny white woman, right? Who's just sort of like validating things. And very importantly, you have Rabbit, right? Rabbit is running around behind the cult leader, trying to make sense out of the chaos. And Rabbit is smart. And Rabbit knows how to do a lot of that, but he doesn't know how to do a lot of it. But the thing about Rabbit is nobody follows Rabbit. Nobody loves Rabbit. Right? So the cult leader is not fungible. The cult leader cannot be just gotten rid of just because there's other people driving it behind the scenes. And this is where we see in Endgame, a lot of times the leader hopped up on substances, right? So Hitler with methamphetamines, Jim Jones, same, and barbiturates, Children of God, they were keeping him drunk all the time. Pete says, you know, and they will do, right? When people were like, how's he going to get through the State of the Union? I'm like, they're going to hop him up on whatever they need to get him through. You know, this is very like El Cid, if any of you were other cult babies who watch that movie for some reason, where he's literally dead, but they send him out tied onto his horse to lead. Let me just finish out the analogy for everyone. So Kanga is the cult auntie who's only good for her womb and her labor. Eeyore is the cult kid that is always in trouble because he won't push down his negative attitudes and just be happy and positive all of the time. Pooh and Piglet are two different kinds of cult joiners. Owl is the resistance, and Roo is the third generation cult baby who gets out and writes the book.
Interesting. That I see a lot of people who know of you who've never heard you give that depiction before, but it absolutely tracks. It absolutely tracks. So, in other words, there are everyone in that's part of the face of the cult, so to speak, has a particular role. In Trump's case, because he's the galvanizing figure. He's the orator. He's the public speaker. I look at my political science side and I'm like, okay, you know, there's got to be credit given where credit is due. The fact that he is the charlatan, sure, but he is a galvanizing figure. He knows how to work a crowd. That is an absolute element necessary to build the cult, to sustain the cult, and hopefully have the cult endure, right?
Yeah. And because literally it all falls apart without him, right? People all the time tell me, like, oh, you're wrong. Like Stephen Miller, he's the one. Stephen Miller is the deputy chief of staff. He quite literally just goes up in smoke as soon as the president is not the president anymore, right? Unless the next president chooses to keep him over, you know? Something else interesting that we have seen between the two different administrations. So when a cult leader is building their cult, right, one of the things they do is put in leaders all around them, you know, and they can either kind of be bumbling idiots or be good bureaucrats. And the good bureaucrats start bureaucrating. They start writing things down. They start making rules and regulations, all of which hampers the power of the charismatic leader, right? Bureaucracy is the opposite of dictatorship. And so the cult leader needs to keep his power. And so he's constantly firing everyone in his immediate circle, right? He's constantly moving people around or firing them or putting them back down to the beginning and humbling them, etc. But by the time we get to cult endgame, the cult leader is not usually doing so well, you know? And I always say that, like, it's not fun. It doesn't seem fun to be a cult leader, you know? Imagine being like 10,000 people's dark therapist. You have to be like coercing and manipulating all the time. They always get caught in their own drama.
Or 77 million's dark therapist in this case, right?
Exactly. You know, they always get caught in their own dark drama. My favorite rumor about how the Children of God leader died is untreated syphilis, which he could quite literally not get treated because cults always hate medical care, and he preached against it. You know, so in Endgame, the cult leader ends up with these 5 or 6 counselors that are absolutely important and are sort of this wall around the cult leader. And that's who everyone is seeing and interacting with. That's who's keeping things running. And they're really just trotting out the cult leader when they need to, as they need to remind people what this is about. So one of the things that I think is really important for the American people to be doing right now is going after those counselors, right? We have not seen him fire any of his important people this administration, right? He's got Pete Hegseth, Stephen Miller, Carolyn Levitt, Christy Bird-Legged Ho Gnome, and a few others, right? And those are the people, yes, Pam Bondi, and like those are the people that we need to be going after, because he at this point needs those people very, very desperately.
I was just going to ask you that. Now, is that a tactic at this point? Because he knows that those people are so devout and just unapologetically loyal to him that no matter what Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and other people in the Justice Department obviously know what's in the Epstein files. They obviously know what's in there. That they've seen it all. So they are lying to the American public every day to protect him, right? As part of the commitment to the cult, so to speak.
And it's not even necessarily devoutness. It's that they're all in on this, right? Like they've gone all in. They have burned every bridge, you know, like they're doing their white supremacy out loud. You know, these 5-6 people around him, they know that they're never going to have a good job ever again after this. They know that they might go to jail if he loses, right? Same reason the Republican congressmen are falling in with supporting this war, which they previously said they would impeach him for. But they understand that they will lose their power too. So right now, it really seems like everyone is just like, we gotta ride these horses of Armageddon and just see what happens, because there's no going back at this point. You know, look at JD Vance, right? Just like full out with the evil, even though that wasn't necessarily the kind of person he was before, you know? And I don't know that I believe that any of these people surrounding him like actually believe that this is good for America, that he's doing good things. They just know that this is where they're at and there's no going back. So they're going to go down with the ship.
We spent some time this morning kind of highlighting Kristi Noem's testimony from the Senate and how she basically doubled down on her lies yesterday. And I played some sound from a former FBI agent who specialized in diversionary tactics from witnesses, like how you obfuscate away from a question, how the question that I was asked had contempt. Therefore, I'm not going to belittle myself to answering it. It seems like those are the strategies of what authoritarians do. Like you diminish all the institutions. Is that similar to the way cult members are trained to sort of react to, difficult questions or uncomfortable moments? Is that similar?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, everything is about, discredit, move the goalposts. Right. I always think that listening to cult members sounds completely insane, and they always forget that they should leave a public person outside of the cult so that they still know how to talk to the outside world, because that, it was interesting when Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of woke up, I think. And I remember being like, wow, I've never heard her sound like a human before. And people were like, no, it's fake, it's whatever. And I'm like, I hear a crack in the brainwashing right there. And I know, because she's never sounded reasonable or rational. And then that first time I was like, if I wasn't looking at her speaking, I would be thinking it was just a run-of-the-mill Democrat, right?
Someone else. Exactly. I want to, if we can, just a little bit, I just want to shift gears a little bit to the situation in Iran, because we have to take it obviously seriously. 6 service members have lost their life that we know of. It could be more. What I do find interesting is you're right about how the people who said if we ever are engaged in these endless wars, especially a war in the Middle East, that would be the line. I would no longer support them. And of course, we've seen that shift. They'll just continue to move the goalpost. Do you find it interesting that there is so much contradicting in messaging from the same people? I mean, Marco Rubio has changed what he said. Pete Hegseth has changed what he said. It's not a war; it's a use of force, and then it is a war.
Yeah.
How do they, from an intelligence specialist, how do you navigate through that if you were trying to say, okay, what's the fucking truth? What's a lie? Is it all a fucking lie? Help us unpack that, because it's confusing for people.
So
I know it's a big question. It's a big question. Okay.
No, it's fine. I can explain exactly what happened. And I, on Saturday and Sunday, was saying this is not a war because the president doesn't have war powers. And literally everyone was screaming at me and telling me to shut up. And now they're walking it back. Because what happened is if this was a war, then Congress has to impeach him. Then the president just took war powers. The president does not have war powers. The president has incredible strike powers, which were increased after 9/11 with the authorized use of military force. But there's still some boundaries on that. You're supposed to have to show imminent threat. So what happened is Trump was just like, yeah, I'm just taking Congress's job. I'm just going to start a war, right? This is that Tigger thing again.
Can I pause you right there 1 second? Because I think they talk about the imminent threat piece, and I don't want you to lose your train of thought, because imminent threat to the homeland or imminent threat to military installations? Where is the line?
So it's supposed to be imminent threat to America or America's assets, right? So yes, if it was so military bases are considered American soil. So if there's an imminent threat to a military base anywhere, yes, you could call it that, right? But I was saying it's very, very important that we don't call it a war. It's right now, it's a strike. If it had continued on after Congress voted against it, it would be an illegal conflict. Because otherwise, the president has just taken war powers, right? This really was his move to be like, I'm a dictator. But what happened is the Republican Congress people want to support him, right? I mean, nobody wanted this war, and it's a very unpopular war. However, they know that their power right now is tied up with him. And I think Republicans know that, the Republicans will not rise again after this for quite a while, right? And so they have to, again, just kind of throw their weight behind him. So if Congress votes on it and approves it, then we can call it a war, right? And people think the word game is over declaring war or not. And that is not the case, right? People love to say, well, we haven't declared a war since World War II. But the war I fought in, the war in Afghanistan, Congress voted on that. Congress voted on Iraq. Congress was involved in Vietnam, right? So the president very, very specifically does not have war powers. The founders didn't even want only the Senate to have it because it's so dangerous, right? So it is Congress, all of Congress. And that is really important. Somebody asked in the comments, why does Trump keep calling it a war? And I'm begging people to stop listening to the cult leader. Like, you don't have to listen to that man. You don't have to believe anything him or his people say, right? Like, he's calling it a war because he's a tyrant who wants to be a tyrant, who's trying to be a dictator. He is yelling at the top of his lungs, I am a dictator, so hard. And then the checks and balances are like pushing him back into shape. So, you know, if people cannot understand the importance of words, I think they just need to sit down and listen more and take some more classes. But it is very, very, very important what it is being called. And that's why we're seeing this kind of pushback or this kind of shift from Congress. And I think it's really important to understand that.
Right. I mean, when you rename the Department of Defense ceremoniously to the Department of War, I mean, I think that tracks to exactly what you just described. It's just saber rattling.
And another thing, which is not real, right? The name has not actually been changed. Like, that is another power that lies with Congress. So he's trying all the things. And in a Congress that, I don't know, had some fucking ovaries, they would have stopped him by now, but they're just not, they're just going along with it because they know they will lose power entirely once he's gone.
One of the things the analogy that I like to make, I know you're big on analogies, is that Trump grabbed a fine piece of china off the shelf and then smashed it on the floor. It took him a second to do that. It shatters into a million pieces. And the frustration from the left is that people on the left think that we can repair it as quickly as it was broken. And as we discussed to start, right, this has been the long game played by the conservative Christian right, the evangelicals, going back to Roe, going back to the dismantling of democratic institutions. They were invested. So what would be your advice to people who know that, like, I agree with you. I think this is the end of the Republican Party as we know it, just because of what they've had to sign on to, like the loyalty clause. No matter what he does, we're going to support it, even if it goes against everything that we've ran on or have lived on. So what's your advice to people on the left that patience, whatever that might be, vote to fight out fascism, accept the non-perfection of a candidate? Yeah, those kinds of things.
So right now, I think the most important thing that American adults can do is educate themselves on our elections. I think it is absolutely embarrassing how many people don't understand our elections, how many people believe that the president or the federal government can turn off our elections. There's no faucet to turn off elections. We don't have an election. We have 6,000 plus elections going on, run by millions of Americans all over. So the rhetoric of he's going to cancel elections is election suppression, right? And he's suppressing his own base. He did this in 2020 by getting Republicans all hot and bothered about mail-in voting. He suppressed his own vote. Stephen Bannon has been out here saying he's doing it again, right? So, like, let the right talk about how he's going to turn off elections. Let the right talk about that. But I need everyone out there to educate themselves, to understand local politics, and then to educate other people when you hear that fear-mongering language. Because yes, they're going to try to suppress votes, but they cannot turn out votes. And I can't think of a single stupider thing to do than to send ICE or soldiers to the polls. I mean, I cannot think of anything that would piss Americans off more.
Agreed.
And I have another great analogy for you, right? Which is, because I always say, like, people love to compare us to Germany, right? And comparisons are valid only if you do the similarities and the differences, right? And I studied in Germany in college, and Germans are the most rule-followingest people. And Americans' personality is fuck you, make me, right? And so this weekend is my national protest. I'm hosting an angry knit-in DC. If anyone wants to come join, Deets on my stuff here. This is our mascot. Cassandra the knitting frog. And so frogging, by the way, is when you take out your mistakes, right? So we're frogging democracy, and we're making this giant tapestry that says "Not Today Fascism." And I asked people all over the country to send in granny squares, right? And we put out a pattern. It is pink or green or blue, and then you put a frog on it or you put a lily pad on it. And then I started getting in the granny squares, and people are sending in whatever the F they want. Whatever the F they want, right? Like, some people did the pattern, but if this was Germany, I would have 4,000 granny squares all in the exact same pattern. But this is America.
Interesting.
We are loud, colorful assholes with guns, and our diversity is the best thing about us. Because you know what? We're still going to make that giant tapestry, and it's probably going to be way cooler than it would have been if everything was exactly the same, the way it was in our imagination when we came up with the issue, right? I also started this because the Disney boycott taught me something, which is if you tell the American people what you want them to do, people will do it, right? Like, everybody wants to push back right now. Everybody wants to fight. So I want to encourage people, and I did this as a way to publicly demonstrate. Like, I've never organized anything politically before, but in 4 months, what I have this Sunday is 500 of my best friends showing up to spend a day crafting and literally creating a physical thing that we never, any one of us, could have done on our own. And I have 50 solidarity events going on around the country and Canada and the Aussies, of course, because they're awesome. So I need to encourage everyone that, like, you can push back and ask yourself who you are in the revolution, right? I don't see myself as a leader. I've tried really hard to not be a leader, but I'm good at talking. I'm good at getting people's attention. I'm good at building a big platform and asking people to get involved. So that's what I did. But one of the things I'm talking about is my friend Namita. And my friend Namita, first of all, is my friend because she just showed up in my life and was like, we're going to be friends now. Let's go. We need to do that more. And Namita held a FOIA tea party the other day, and she'd invited people over to drink chai and wine and file FOIAs. And it was just 3 of us. And one of them was an attorney who could give us great advice on how to file FOIAs, but she couldn't use her name because she works for the government. But Namita and I could use our names, so we filed it under our names. And Namita was filing for stuff about the Epstein list. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it when it comes out. It's not like I have a giant platform. And then I was like, but I do, right? So everyone has a different role in the revolution. Another thing I've been reminding people of, one of my jobs as the intelligence officer tracking terrorist cells, was finding the financiers, finding the people who are writing checks. And we all want to hear about kind of like the sexy stuff, like going out and protesting. And we need to do that too. But like, send money to the ACLU. You know, one of the things we're doing at our knit-in is we're having a craft fair, and we are, I'm challenging people to put their money where their mouth is.
You keep going, I'll be right back.
And continue to raise money, because writing checks to the organizations that are pushing back is a very, very, very important part of the revolution. And, you might have to take some risk. I had to take the risk that I was going to have to write a $20,000 check to pull this off. And fortunately, we've raised most of that money by crowdsourcing it. But, there is risk to stuff. There is risk. We also, fear of death is a tenet of white supremacy, y'all. And there's a lot of creators of color talking about this right now, how white people are just so afraid of dying. And that's why we uphold insane rules and insane systems. And we got to get over that. And so I will give you this tip from Mr. Knitting Cult Lady, who was a special operations helicopter pilot who's been shot down in a helicopter before. And he says this thing, I'm talking, Steve, about how fear of death is a tenet of white supremacy, and we need to just get over it and start going out and pushing back. And so my husband always says this thing, he says, either it'll work out or it'll immediately not be my problem. And we need to embrace that a little more. We need to embrace the soldier mentality of, I hope I don't die, but I'm willing to anyways, because they can't get us all, right? They really cannot get us all. Right? Like, we have more weapons than our military. We have so many more people. We have 15 million of us veterans out here, many, if not most of whom, do not like what is going on, because even the Republican ones didn't sign up for this crap, right? All of us signed up to serve our country. So yeah. And I think, another really important thing that people need to be doing right now, and we're talking about this ad nauseum at the knit-in, is community evaluation, right? Like, who are you in your community? What are your privileges? And then how can you use them, right? So, for example, in my community, we have talked to everyone. We live in a heavily not white community, and we have talked to everybody that we know about, like, what is your ICE plan? And if it's not calling the 27 years of white military experience, it should be, right? And we will be there. And my husband and I are not created equal either. He's a 6'2", blue-eyed former soldier with combat stripes up to his elbow, right? He can get in the face of any ICE officer anywhere. Meanwhile, I have a giant platform. I can show up streaming, right? I can go raise hell and do different things. I am probably the second most privileged type of person as a white woman veteran. And I can get in the face. Like, I got in the face of a bike cop who was giving a trans veteran a hard time. And I told him that I have more military experience in one of my ovaries than he has in his entire shrivelly little man body. And he just looked at me like that and then cycled away on his bike, and we didn't hear from him anymore. So, I need everybody to be going through, like, what are your skills? What do you bring to the table? And talking about that in your neighborhoods and in your communities.
You'll probably notice do something up on my screen, Daniela. It's this thing that I've been talking about for a long time. I believe in activism. We've talked about this, about how we each play a part. It could just be making a sandwich for a friend. It could be dropping off socks at a homeless shelter. It could be, shoveling your neighbor's driveway, whatever that might be. And that's kind of turned into this thing where I'm going out on the road over the course of the summer into the fall leading up to Election Day. I call it the Do Something Tour, trying to get more people involved. There's 90 million people that did not show up to vote. I think there's a lot of gettable voters out there, just reminding people what's at stake, to your point, what it is that we're actually fighting for. So I'm with you. And there's always something that all of us can do. And I'll talk to you more about that down the road. I'm working on my book as well. That's a different conversation. There's a couple. Do you have a few more minutes? I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm always sensitive to it. Okay, so the Epstein files. Obviously, we've been tracking it. It's day 76 now, the federal government breaking the law by not releasing all the information in the Epstein File Transparency Act. And you, as somebody who's been inside, like intelligence, right? I have this adage, like, follow the money. And I'm with you, the financiers, the financial connections, which is part of why this just worldwide plague of pedophilia and trafficking young girls and boys exists, because of the amount of money involved. Do you think there will be justice for anyone in these if at all the information comes out? And ultimately, do you think there's going to be justice for survivors?
I mean, I have a hard time believing in justice as somebody that was trafficked in a world famous pedophile cult that performed twice at the White House after it was known that they were a pedophile cult. But here's what I think is important. I don't think justice is the first focus, actually. And I think that, we respond to everything in a patriarchal way. And my challenge right now is for people to maybe start thinking about responding as a matriarchy. One of the things we're talking about in my protest is, patriarchy is a ladder with men at the top. Matriarchy is a circle with children and the vulnerable on the inside. And so people ask me all the time, why is it always raping children, right? Why is it always sexual abuse? And it's not, that's the wrong focus. It's exploitation. It is exploitation of labor. Cults are power structures for what? For exploitation of labor. And children are the least protected demographic in our society. So, you know, I always say this, like, if someone did this to my child, I would want to kill them myself. I would want to put them in jail. But what I would do is stay home with my child and make sure they are okay and protect my child, you know? And I hear all of this like, oh, I want to kill these pedophiles. No, you won't even have a conversation with your uncle about how he's creepy or with your father about how spanking is psychosexual abuse, right? If we strengthen the protections for children, right? Children do not have rights in our country. Children are still under property law, where women used to be and are only just barely out of, right? In some of these Scandinavian countries that we look to as models.
You got a violation.
I got a violation, yeah, for violent content. Children have rights and parents have responsibilities, you know? So looking at how are we going to keep these kind of people out of power? You know, every time in our history that women have fought for power, men have responded with, fine, we'll go F teenagers, right? And our response to that needs to be like, absolutely not acceptable. You're just not the people we're going to vote for or ever have in power anymore. But I mean, a focus on justice when the people who are in charge of the justice system are the people doing the crimes, I think is very convoluted. And I don't know how much hope I have. That being said, it's significant that the most powerful men in the world have been trying to quash this for 2 decades, and they haven't been able to do so. And when I was watching the conference and that woman said, we're making our own list, I swear I don't even believe in energy. And I felt an energy shift, right? And I was like, I wonder if this is kind of like a fundamental crack to the patriarchy. The fact that these men with power and billions and former presidents like cannot crush this, I think is important. And, you know, with Iran right now, we have kind of an exact parallel.
Do you have a backup
account?
Yeah.
I do, but I don't even know how to get in it. Is the violation problematic? Do I have to leave?
Well, I'm gonna. This conversation's too important. I'll take my chances.
I don't know
all right. So
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it. So maybe we should move up. Let's move off that topic just a little bit so we can ask you a couple of questions. And I want to make sure, because I agree. We talk about the matriarchy and all the time. Let me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drop you. Don't go away.
Oh yeah.
Come right back up. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's part of the issue with these conversations. But we're gonna bring it right back up. We'll continue the conversation. Just I want to make sure that this is just too important a conversation to avoid. So she's requested again. I'll bring her right back up. We'll try again. Okay, we're back. hopefully that will brush away the violation. I think the topic that we were just discussing, I think, is the important part for all of us, is that we all see that the system, I talk about this often, about a system built by people who look like me, to protect people who look like me, to support people who look like me, to make people who look like me's lives better. That's the point. That's what we often talk about it in terms of what a matriarchy would look like. We can look at societies around the world. We can look at Scandinavian countries. We can look at societies that are run by women in general. They prioritize things differently. In fact, I'm in the process of writing something about empowering women and what trickle up economics would look like. You prioritize the things that should matter in our society, children being front and center. And I like the analogy about the circle with children in the center. And so I'm with you. I don't know if there'll be justice. I do think it's interesting that former Prince Andrew, the first member of the royal family arrested in 400 years, That's not insignificant. Like, that's not insignificant that happened. Justice, difficult to say. As long as as long as there is a network designed to protect people who are committing these crimes, it's hard to say justice. Shining a light on it, so potentially it doesn't happen again. If there's anything good, potentially, because I'm always going to see the glass half full, that comes out of this, is how broad it is and how massive this network is, and how deep these financial ties go.
And I think something really, really significant too was that, in the emails we see that they didn't want Black girls, right?
Correct.
And I thought at first that was racism, which you would think, but it was because they said because Black girls will fight back and they'll go tell their mothers who will fight back. So like white women, our job is very clear, right? If you are teaching your daughters to stay sweet, to keep sweet, to play nice, to be people pleasers, like you are setting them up for exploitation. Like we absolutely have to be teaching our young girls to fight back. And we have to be teaching them that if they tell us that they have been exploited or harmed by someone, that we will go fight back and that we won't care about what might happen to us for fighting back for our children, right? And I think that is super, super crucial right now. But yeah, as a cult survivor, like cult leaders usually get to ride off into the sunset, right? They usually are not brought to justice. And I think the most important thing to do is figure out how to stop it from happening again versus trying to punish the people that did it. Like, look, I want every single one of them in jail. I absolutely do. And I hope that happens. And I hope that those victims get justice. But 1 in 4 children in America are assaulted in their homes or by trusted family or religious leaders, and that is not going to be fixed by powerful men going to jail. That is only going to be fixed by us fixing our culture.
Systemic change to our system, which I talk about often about how, democracy, I look at the Democratic Party as public transportation. It gets me closer to where I want to go. I'm willing to walk the rest of the way to create wholesale change, to try to get money out of politics, to revamp our public education system, to prop up healthcare, to support marginalized communities, to defend women's rights, all those kinds of things. It may not happen. All those things may not happen in my lifetime, but I'm fighting for it. That's what we all should be fighting for. I always talk about the end game here, right? For us after this, because there will be the sun will rise and Trump will be gone and the members of his administration will be gone. My concern is about the future of the press. I talk about this a lot just because it's been degraded for so long. It's by design. It's a pattern with authoritarian nations in politics about how you go after the press for obvious reasons. You don't want to be called out. Do you have that same concern, or I should ask you, what would be your concern after we get through this particular moment?
So I do, but I also think, again, this is part of how they don't know what they're doing. Like every time we get suppressed here on TikTok, I think it's so funny because we're all on 14 different platforms, right? And like this across the board, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about your book, the gatekeepers don't know how to keep the gates anymore, right? The 5th most watched news channel in America is Aaron Parnas, who's just a 26-year-old dude that does the news.
You good?
Banned.
You good? Did you get a flag?
I got banned.
You did?
That's what it's saying.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're still up. I didn't get a notification this time. It's up to you.
I don't know what's happening.
You want to try to drop and come up again? Maybe she can request again. Danielle, if you're listening by chance and you're in the chat and you want to request, she might have got a suppression notice. Well, as we're talking about the press and the suppression thereof, how ironic that would happen. So sorry. Let's give it a minute here. So every time I talk to Daniela, I'm left with hope. Just because first of all, I trust her immensely, and I believe in the way in which she sort of offers up what could potentially be, brighter days as we get through darker days, right? About how we don't have, that this current administration does not have the military. We know that there are more of us than them. There are all kinds of opportunities for us to. There she's back. Okay, good. Back again. I hope we didn't cause any issues for your account. I'm so sorry that happened.
No, it's not you. I have chosen to not play by their rules. But it's been like 10 months since I was last kicked off an account. So here we are. One of the things I was trying to say is like, you sort of mentioned this, that like this is going to be over at some point. And like, I'm a huge Hamilton fan. And the first, I would say, quarter of the musical is about the energy of like, there might be a war, we might die, but if we survive, we get to build a new nation. Right. And I think that's where people need to be getting hope from right now. Like, this is exposing all of the holes in our system. And what are we going to do?
The sequel.
Right, exactly. Let the women write the sequel. Like, let the right people be the leaders. The oppressed understand the oppressors the best. And when you talk about journalism, like, figure out what you care about, right? Like, I care about journalism. I care about education. Those are two big things for me. I care about the post office. Like, pick institutions that you care about and defend them. But, I do think, like, Steve, I look 20 years from now, and I think the news channels are going to be Factsstillmatter and Knitting Coat Lady and Heather Cox Richardson and Aaron Parnas. Like, things are shifting. They don't know how to control us anymore. Like, the rules don't really apply when an entire system is being pulled down, and that's, I think, something for people to realize. There's all this language of like, we're cooked, we're over, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, we are living through the collapse of a system, of an empire. Empires last on average 250 years. And it's a bit on the nose that we are collapsing on our actual 250th anniversary. But, we can do something better in the afterward. And if the only thing that we get out of this is folks stop being apathetic and get involved in their nation, I think we're going to build something better afterwards.
I agree.
And also, everyone, this is my backup account, so please come follow me here.
Please follow it. Yes, please follow here. I'm glad you said that, because we've after the situation with Alex Preddy and Renee Good, there was obviously a lot of, revolution in the street, take up arms. And I was very fortunate to be joined by a lot of Black women on panels that particular week. And they just reminded all of us that white America has got to learn to move differently. That's the quote that I'm holding on to, because I think about moments in our recent history, civil rights movements in particular. The Montgomery bus protest was 13 months long. It took duration. It took commitment. Standing in the face of violence, crossing Edmund Pettus Bridge, knowing full well that they're going to be beaten, they're going to be jailed, they're going to be unalived, and they did it anyway.
Yep.
And I think the lesson for white America to learn is that It doesn't, I mean, the reason white America has never been under threat like this before, right?
Exactly.
So here we sit. And so the question is, how are we going to respond? And it's easy. The impulse is to take up arms, and that may end up happening. But I think there's a better way. Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers, right?
Yes. So one of the things I always say is, like, Mr. Rogers was talking to the children. If you're an adult, you're supposed to be the helper, right? So all of us as adults, we have to figure this out. But this is our first American dictatorship, right? White people have not dealt with this before. So if you are not looking to communities of color for guidance, you're doing it wrong. I also, I did not grow up in white, stable, quote unquote, stable democracies. I was born in a sex cult, in a labor camp in the Philippines as the Marcos dictatorship was falling down. Then I grew up in Brazil as their military dictatorship was coming down. Studied empire in Germany in college. I'm telling you, it's all coming together now. And watching white Americans freak out like this is the end of the world has been very interesting, right? And I keep saying it's such a privileged take that white Americans thought they were never going to have a bad executive in the office, right? Or like systems that didn't work for them. But here's what happened in Brazil. They voted down their military dictatorship. Yes, it does happen. It took them 20 years, but they eventually took it down with very little violence. And they learned how to organize and they learned how to fight back. And so when Trump 2.0, Jair Bolsonaro, tried it again in 2023, they were like, oh, hell no. And they shut that down. When Brazil's capital was stormed in copycat of ours, everyone was arrested that same day. And their Congress wasn't even in session, right? And now that guy is in jail for 27 years. And the new guy who came in just lifted Brazil off the UN hunger map. He made racism illegal. There's an Argentine woman going to jail for 5 years for making monkey noises at somebody. Brazil came back and built a stronger democracy, and they had the cultural memory to not let it happen again. And one of the things that white America doesn't want to hear is we do know how to organize. Because when segregation was taken down, white people hit the streets in mass numbers, didn't they? So tapping into your ancestors, I keep telling white people, like, tap into your best little MLM soul and turn out your friends and family and start figuring out what you are going to do. And we have to stop acting like, if he doesn't leave office, this is the end, right? No, this is the beginning of the fight to get our freedom back. Tyrants never win forever. People do not like to live under oppression. The majority of people want a functioning society. But we've got to stop waiting for, an 18-year-old Katniss Everdeen to come save us or the military to come save us. And, in Germany, everyone's favorite example, like, they got saved, right? The rest of the world came together and saved them. And that is just not an option for us. We are too big. Nobody has a big enough military to invade America, not even America. We, the people, are going to have to figure out. But I think, I really want people to take strength from the No Kings protest and to understand that when 10 million white-led people rolled out of their homes, there was literally nothing that the government or the military could do, right? If 3 to 7% of us revolt, we overwhelm the military. At 8%, they won't even take on that fight. Not that I think the American military would fight the American people, but we, the people, are going to have to do it. Every single person, I think, needs to be asking themselves every day, what are you doing to push back? Whether that's calling, sending an email, supporting, sending money, going to a protest. On Saturday, when everybody was freaking out about Iran, there was a protest with 5,000 people in downtown DC, and I went and spent the whole day doing that instead of freaking out about the world ending. So like, yeah, some of us are not going to survive, but those who do, we are going to get to build the new America, and we absolutely have to start right now.
And I think something you just said is really the key, because what fascist leadership does in our particular case is I don't think they see America willing enough to set its entitlement aside to stand up and fight back, which is why we struggle to get 62% of our voters to the poll. Apathy, entitlement, whatever that might be. And a lot of that apathy and that entitlement is led by white men. We don't want to be bothered. We're good. We're comfortable. I don't want to upset the apple cart. So they're leaning in on that, right? We don't expect resistance. We don't expect people to fight back. So I guess the cautionary tale is, if we don't fight, then what the fuck's the point? Then we're just going to give it all away anyway, right?
Right. Like, that's kind of what I think about what you and I are doing, like being up on here, and people ask me all the time if I'm scared. And I'm like, of course I'm scared. I've held a top secret clearance in the past, which means they could really roll me up for anything if they wanted to. But if I just don't do it because I'm scared, then he's already taken my freedom of speech, and I want to come back to like the benefit that we have as Americans is there's 350 million of us. There's so gosh darn many of us. We are similar to Brazil in that we are a continent-spanning country. Nobody can control us by force. Our borders cannot be closed. And we have 500 million guns. And I'm going to leave you with my intelligence officer thing, because this was my actual job, was to look at a population and figure out who has the weapons. And the thing about America is we have 500 million guns and nobody knows who has them. People have fought for a very long time to make sure there is not a list, and we cannot tell. So we have what I call weapons herd immunity. And no, you don't have to bring your guns out. In fact, I think it's much better to keep them at home. But if you were a commander trying to do a military operation in America, I would literally have to tell you, like, there's no way. You have to look at every single American person as hostile and every house as extremely armed. And there is just no way for them to control us by force. If we get to dictatorship, which we're kind of teetering right there, I think if midterms happen and they refuse to concede, that would be our point. But we will be the most armed dictatorship in history. And the thing that America has that no other country has ever had is a gun behind every blade of grass, right? Which what that means is unfortunately, for those who want to just sit down and give up, there is no point at which it is too late for us to push back against a tyrannical government. So, we have the power, we have the people. No dictator can survive without the people. No cult leader can survive without his cult. And I really do think it is crashing and burning around them. And we need to keep up the pressure. We need to keep pushing. We might need to have an insurgency.
Never know. Well, I want to thank you for your time. Sorry about your main. I'm sure you'll get it back. I just want to thank you. If there's any, I really appreciate your honesty, and this is why our chat loves you so much, and our community loves you so much, Daniela. Thank you for being here on such short notice. I really appreciate you. Why don't you plug your book while you're here before you
Steve, anytime. Okay, all right. So I have 2 books. Just depends what you're in the mood for. I've got this is my story, Uncultured, of growing up in the Children of God cult and going into the cult of the U.S. Army. If you really want to, if you really want to understand their mindset, that's what you want to look at. But unlike most authors, I usually tell people right now, start with the second book, because this is my cult tactics book. This is how bad guys do stuff. All of it is related to right now. My 10th chapter, Ends Justifies the Means, is about MAGA and extremism in America and where we are going. Both of these are on Audible. Both of them are on Spotify Premium if you subscribe, or, anywhere you get your audio if you are an audio person. So Uncultured and Culting of America. I'm currently working on a new book called An All-American Fascism. So, And
just a little light reading.
Little light reading. Yep. I'm already on chapter 5. Steve, I'm so happy every time I get a message from you asking me if I want to come on the show. So thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. Thanks for being one of the, straight presenting white men out there who's like pushing back and using your power and your privilege.
Well, I'll take that as a massive compliment. I appreciate you so much for being here, friend. Thank you so very, very much. And I'll send you a note because I have an idea. But thank you again for being here. We love you. Thanks for being here.
All right.
Be safe out there.
Yeah, and happy to talk about books anytime.
You got it. Oh, thank you for that offer. I will. Appreciate you. Have a good day. Be safe out there.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Sorry. Yeah. Every time I speak with her, I always feel inspired, right? So, God, I don't even know where to unpack the 9 million things. My brain is firing me like all kinds of stuff right now. I think the message from someone, think about, yeah, exactly. She grounded us, right? She grounded us. She creates a situation where, how can you deny her experience? Being born into a sex cult, a trafficking cult, being born, then joining another high control environment, the U.S. military, an intelligence officer, a combat veteran, an author, someone who studied this, had been exposed to environments around the world. We've got to be able to look to education, people who are educated, people who are informed, people who have the experience to be able to address this kind of stuff. I always feel inspired. I really always feel inspired. Hopefully that inspired you too. Daniela, again, thank you so much. That was incredibly awesome for you to give us as much time as you did. Thank you, friend. I appreciate you. All right, a lot of folks in the chat. I want to try to. I may not get to everybody, friends, but let's bring up a few folks. And again, thank you, everybody. Tapping is clapping, liking is loving, sharing is caring. HR, how are you, friend?
Hi. I'm doing better than I was earlier this week. For sure, struggling a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to come up and talk about my experience that I've had in Iran. I did a project in 2012 with microloans that gave me this incredible opportunity to travel through India and Pakistan, Iran, Jordan, and we did microloans with women through a bunch of different non-governmental organizations, and I got to spend a month there. And it was like one of them, like I've traveled around a lot. I've traveled through Europe. I was born and raised in Kenya. I have family all over the world. I am not an untraveled person, and Iran has made the largest impact on my life because of the women. It is one of the most incredible places where you find women who work in the private industry because they're not allowed to work in public industries. Where you find that they are like making something out of nothing, out of being denied entry into the global community, but are incredibly well educated, and they run these families, and they are working under these conditions that you can't even imagine for yourself. And they do it with this grace and this power that was like something that at the time, I was young, and at the time I was struggling with so many different things in my life. I've been in recovery for like almost 10 years in May. And it was something, it was like a month. Thank you. And it was this time where like, I like needed to see that like life could be had in the most dire of circumstances. And I made a lot of really, really, really good friends there. Whom I have not heard from. Other than last night, I heard from one friend who finally made it over the border of Turkey with her daughter, but is in a bad spot. And it's been hard because I've been listening to like the politics of it, people talking about the politics of all of it, and not talking about the people who are there, who have been fighting and struggling for decades and decades just to have some part in the global community. And it is like a strange feeling. It's complicated because Iran isn't, the IRGC isn't this clean, revolutionary guard, that's fighting for them. But they see themselves as protecting Iran from the West. And as somebody who was born in Kenya because of British colonization and then had to leave Kenya because of British colonization, like, I get it. I get being afraid of the West. But you could never hear that framing. You won't hear that framing in American media that they're afraid of something real. And I don't condone their actions. I don't want them to continue doing what they are doing, but I want people to understand that Khomeini is not a person. He's a symbol. He is a symbol of the line of Ali to people who practice Shia law or Shia Islam. That they have been a small persecuted minority in terms of the greater story of Islam since 872 CE. And this is where we don't root that out by killing him. That's why they tell us that he has risen to martyrdom, because he can exist in absentia. That's the whole point of the Ali line. We don't understand what it is culturally, which is why we think we can get rid of it in the same way Trump thinks that he could get rid of himself, that he wouldn't want his movement to exist without him here. But that is not the case here. Like, the Ayatollah almost has more power in absentia than he does in real life, because that 12th son of Ali disappeared. That's the only way that body was made to not be surveilled or imprisoned or poisoned. And we don't seem to understand that. And we have this expectation that anybody who comes in against whatever these people are has to be perfect. That the revolutionaries who might fight for something in Iran, they must be perfect. Every single time that I talk to somebody about this, they're like, well, the IRGC is horrible, and who is there on the ground to do anything? We don't know, but do they have to be perfect? We've always had this expectation, and I'm not saying the IRGC is anywhere close or should be even allowed, but there's this idea that when we do quote unquote regime change, the people coming in have to be perfect, or like they have to treat women perfectly, and they have to treat LGBTQ people. Like, you can't stand up for them if they don't do that well. And it's like, you don't even know what it is to say that.
Our country's one to talk, right, HR? Like, if anybody casts aspersions on anyone else, people who live in glass houses, that whole analogy.
And exactly, like, we do it, we have a different flavor here, right? It looks a little bit different. We have a class stratification here and an inability to work with each other like they do over there. They have built community, and that is the only reason they have even survived this long. And like, look, I have greatly benefited. I have greatly benefited from coming to this part of the world. I have, but there is no comparison to what my life would have been if I had remained in Kenya my whole life, especially during the time we were there. I have greatly, greatly benefited from being here. I have gotten to attend some of the best institutions. I have gotten to be educated by some of the best mentors. And I still find myself in these halls, in these rooms, just wanting to scream with anger at the way that we don't think about the whole picture in this country when it comes to finance, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to like class. Because like that, when even now talking to people about geopolitics, I'm like, this is still about money and economics. But we never think of the human cost. That is what has been trampling me the last few days, is that there's a real cost to ordinary people that you might not know what language they speak or what kind of food they eat or why they practice religion the way that they do, but they are ordinary like you. And we can't dehumanize them. We can't become okay with this. Thank you so much for giving me a place to talk about this too.
Oh,
I appreciate that a lot.
Anytime, HR. I mentioned to you when we chatted on Discord, I've always been an admirer. So I'm honored that you chose to share your story with us. I mean, and please come back anytime. This community is, what I've learned about this community is that, first of all, I always joke that I don't joke, I mean it. They're the smartest chat on TikTok. And the more conversations we have like this, the more I hope more eyes are open, because we need to hear these kinds of conversations, because we're all humanists here. You know, no one likes human suffering in this community. We despise it, no matter who's responsible. That's the point. Prioritize the things that should matter. That's my argument for a matriarchy every single day, because I know that if we had a world that was run by women, led by women, especially women of color, that the entire world would just look so different. And it may not happen in my lifetime, but conversations like this potentially make it happen in future generations. So HR, again, it's an honor. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you very much.
I just also wanted to say, like, the thing that pulls me out of despair, the thing that always pulls me out of despair is like being of service and like getting out there and like doing something in real life. I highly recommend like making little like bags or boxes for like domestic violence shelters or blessings boxes for churches. I love doing that because I can like go there and just like put it in there and I can leave. I don't have to talk to anyone. My introvertedness comes out. I like a blessings box. I really love like a little community library where I can go and exchange books. Little things like that actually genuinely make me feel so much better. And I know it's like, it sounds like it's silly and little, but even just like going to a meeting for like my recovery and talking to a sponsee, being out there and reminding myself like people are doing good things, because the despair is really hard when I'm thinking about when I just filing my taxes and I'm single. I have like maybe one deduction. They wouldn't let me deduct my cat. Like I'm looking at my federal income taxes and going, it's almost too much to bear that I'm giving my knowledge, my labor, my time away, and then I pay taxes for the possibility that my own friends could be killed by that money. And it's almost too much to bear, but you have to, I don't know if there's other choice. I don't have another choice. I have to eat. I have to pay for my house. I have responsibilities to people and to myself. And that it's hard. It's not easy. And these communities help so much. I just want to remind people that like, no matter how difficult this fight gets, like Daniela was talking about, you cannot despair and you have to keep connecting out with like real people doing stuff. That is the antidote to the despair and to the apathy, at least from my experience.
I would agree. That's the entire point. Again, thank you for your words, and thank you for your heart, and thank you for your brain power, because we all need more of it. I appreciate you being here, friend. Thanks a lot. Be safe out there. You see, this is why we do this. Because of voices like Daniela's, and because of voices like HR's, and because of voices that we've heard in particular over the last few weeks from Black women in particular. You know, it's not, you know, I get all kinds of accusations against me, whatever, that this is just a con, that this is just a grift. I don't give a shit. Believe what you want. I don't fucking care. All I know is what this means to me and the impact that we're having on others, and how we're reminding folks that there is a lot to fight for. How we choose to fight is going to be up to us individually. I'm going to choose to follow the lead of Black women and how we're supposed to learn to move differently through society. And to Daniela's point, which we discussed, white America has never been oppressed like this. We've never had to deal with the dictator that's in our face. It's there right now. It's fucking right there in front of us. Right there in front of us. It's affecting all of us. The question is, how do we choose to respond? White men, you've been told your only emotions you can share publicly are anger and lust. Maybe you put your anger towards things that would matter, fighting for the rights of your sisters and your nieces and your daughters and your mothers and your neighbors, instead of just complaining about yourself and centering yourself around your victimhood bullshit. We have an opportunity here. There's a real opportunity here to change the way our entire society looks. Our diversity is our strength. It is our fucking superpower. It is absolutely our superpower. It is unique globally. Our diversity is what makes our country strong. Don't let people ironically enough, it's white men that are telling you diversity is a weakness. Keep that in mind. That's by design. They want you to think that. They don't want other cultures, other voices, other languages. They just don't. That should tell you something. That's why they want the SAVE Act. They don't want women to vote. They just don't. I say this a lot. I'll say it again. Queens, they are afraid of you. Give them something to be afraid of. That's my hope. Okay. Everybody keep tapping, please. Appreciate you all. I want to support the Do Something Tour. You can do so at Factsstillmatter as we're going out on the road to try to send this message far and wide to as many people as possible. Appreciate you guys. June, are you there? You wanted to, there you are. Good morning, June. How are you today? June? Hello? Are you there? I guess not. Everybody keep tapping, please. Help us stay out in the FYP. We got had to deal with the free speech police, so to speak. Okay, Fire Pit Boss. Good to know. It's funny, I did a video yesterday that got like 24 views, and I was talking about how we can't relent on the truth. I know the arguments and TikTok debates and whatever else it may, it's one of the reasons I don't do it as much anymore, or I've made the conscious decision to not do it. Like, I'll do it one-on-one, but I don't really want to go on a panel. That's other people's thing. That's their thing. That's great. It just seems like I would rather direct my energy elsewhere to people who truly want to engage in an amazing conversation. I'm not sure if you're still here, Mike, with Mike and his lovely wife, Debbie. You know, I was critical of Mike because he said some horrible things in my chat he's usually here most days. We had a breakthrough moment because I think he himself realized that he didn't want to hate people anymore. That takes a willingness, that takes an honesty, that takes a level of sincerity and integrity that we're all looking for, right? We all want that. We all want to have those conversations. And I want to lose if I can use my privilege to have those conversations with people once in a while, maybe on a bigger scale, maybe with more people in a room at the same time, just to remind folks what it is that's important. You know, as Daniela said it, as HR said it, it's about the human connection. What are the things that we're fighting for? What are the things that are so important? I'm radical because I want a better education system. I'm radical because I want marginalized communities' rights to be propped up and to progress forward. I'm radical because I think kids should eat. I'm radical because I don't think poor people should be used as political props. I'm radical because I want health care, food, water, shelter. Okay, then sign me up. Where's my fucking shirt? If those things are radical, then okay. Yeah, exactly. I'm a total commie, right, Obi? Complete commie because I care about those things. We laugh about it, but it's so simple, right? So I take the words HR's experience globally about the communities that she's been part of and what she's seen. Sure, there's a political side because there's always a political side, but at the core, it's humanity. What are we fighting for? And for Daniela to grow up how she's grown up, she could have checked out, have every reason to be cynical. She's like, I'm going to shine a light on this fucking shit so we can be better. I don't expect things to change in my lifetime. I hope they do. I want them to do. I certainly want them to change in my kids' lifetime. I want a matriarchy. That's what I want. If I put the flag in the ground today, that's what I want, because we would all be better if we had it. There's no denying it. There's no denying it. And white men and sadly white women are the ones that are holding us back from it in our country. That's it. So I'm going to talk to white men. White women, I need you to do the same. I would like you to do the same. You've got to call out each other. You've got to hold each other accountable. You've got to remind them what's at stake. You can't accept it. You can't accept it. Just stay focused. Don't relent on the truth. Just keep reminding people what it is that you're fighting for and why and for whom, more importantly. Yes, your vote matters. It does. The coast is clear. You want any hope to try to fix things, then you've got to be engaged. No doubt. Okay. I'll try to plow through some of these requests here and we'll dive in some more. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Good morning, Shayna. How are you? Oh, it looks like you might have timed out. Okay. Let me just check real quick on people want to support the cause. Thank you to, let's see here. Amy, thank you very much. You're very kind for your Dollar Train donation. Appreciate you. Also, over here. Mary for the Do Something tour. Just found you. So glad I did. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you saying that. That's awesome. All right. Good morning. Long-sighted. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing all right.
Good. It's on your mind.
Long-time listener and first-time joiner, so it's quite an honor actually to be on the same live that's like Daniela and HR were. That's really, really wild. Yeah,
I agree. I agree. I feel the same way. I agree. What's on your mind?
It's an honor. Yeah. So I wanted to echo a thing that Daniela said that was really powerful to me, which when she talked about the files, the e-files, and she mentioned that at a cursory glance, it would seem like racism that they were saying no women of color, no black girls, no,
yeah,
and but upon actual reflection, it's because of all of those things that she mentioned that like they would fight back, and I think that's so powerful. Like and really speaks to the moment and speaks to the cultural moment about where we are and where we are as a nation. I think, privileged white dudes like you and I, frankly, need to do more to support women of color and really, put it past us, put it past our privilege and just really stand up. And so that's it. Just her point about that really struck me. And
same.
I think that was really powerful. So, good for Daniela. Also, everything that HR said, wow, just absolutely beautiful. Right. So anyways, just wanted to thanks to those creators and to yourself. So cheers.
Well, thanks for having that perspective, and I appreciate that awakening, so to speak. Make sure you're out there sharing that message with other fellows that look like me and you. I appreciate you being here, friend. Have a good day. Be safe out there.
Cheers.
Awesome. Cheers to you. I agree. I'd never heard that perspective before, and the chat lit up when she said that about black girls would tell their moms, and not that we all know what she meant. It's incredible. It's an incredible point. Yeah, it was eye-opening, right? I agree. Okay. There's a lot of folks in the request box. Some people might have timed out. Sorry if that happened, but I'll try to get to as many requests as I can today.
Sorry, I didn't mean to request. I was tapping.
It's okay. Thank you for being here, Santos. I appreciate you. Hi, Swells. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. You covered this earlier, and I did my own little research project today because I do government contracting for a living. And Noam's testimony yesterday had me start my own little research project, and I am obsessed with this now, and I cannot believe that this is allowed to happen. So basically, any government contract has a notice ID. So when you search, you probably know that facts, but notice IDs are, because it's federal taxpayer money, are available online, and you can look up what competition bid was used and who was awarded by that. So something, and I don't know if you will allow me to share my screen, but I found some stuff on sam.gov that was insane, Steve.
Sure. Let me give you a full screen. Go for it.
Okay.
I love this shit. Let's go forensics. Let's go forensics.
This is sam.gov. Sam.gov is used for all government. Well, it's a very useful site for government contractors. So this is the notice ID for this DHS contract, right? What's very interesting is that the contract award date was February 13, 2025, and it was published March 7th. So it was awarded prior to being published, which is very strange to me. Additionally, interesting, right? Additionally, in every sam.gov contract, you can go down to where they list the attachments. This attachment explains why. So this is an IDIQ contract. IDIQ contracts are always based on a firm price, either a low or high price that the contract can be awarded. Additionally, it's based on years. So it says this contract lasts till March 25th or whatever of 2026. They can spend at most $200 million. So this is that attachment. This explains why they went around the federal acquisition process, which is FAR, to award this contract directly to people. And they're basically saying, and this is kind of a long document, but I read it. So their excuse to not go through FAR and not advertise this to all companies with those NICS codes is because Trump declared a state of emergency for immigration. That's what they used. But what's most asinine to me is that NAICS codes, there are two NAICS codes that qualified for these contracts. It's 541840 and 541613. There are approximately 3,500 firms in America that have those NAICS codes that would qualify for this contract. And specifically, the DHS, I highlighted this because this is why the description of market research, why they didn't do market research for this contract. It says, given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossing, DHS identified 4 companies that specialize in domestic and international advertising, campaign development, media buying, media production. Any other facts supporting use of other than full and open competition? None. So they had no other reason. And additionally, Steve, this is very interesting to me. They listed the 3 companies that they advertise this to, and one of them is blacked out. Why? Okay. Additionally, they blacked out, they redacted who approved it, who approved the contract, which was very interesting to me because this is federal taxpayer money, right? So then I got really interested, and I went to the companies that they awarded. Before you go further, so is it normal that there would be redactions? No, I've never. I mean, on national security, sure. On national security measures, there might be, but I have in a media buying contract. No, that's ridiculous.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. All right, makes sense.
So the 2 companies that they awarded this to, People Who Think and Safe America Media. So any company that gets taxpayer funded projects is able, you can look them up and see how many contracts they've been awarded. And just before anybody says, well, maybe they were named something different, their UEI numbers don't change. So even if they were named something different, it would be listed here what those other names were. Okay. So this is People Who Think. You can go and look here and see all their contracts from all these years. They were never awarded a contract before this. Additionally, Safe America Media is the exact same. You can see here, I checked all of these years. They were never awarded a contract before this contract. Additionally, for a media company, you would think they'd have a website, right? So I looked everywhere I looked everywhere for their websites. People Who Think is the only one who has a website, and all it is this. It has no menu. It has no pages. It's this landing page. That is it. That's all that they gave us. So, additionally, which I found strange, is that because I do civil engineering, so that's kind of the contracts that I'm used to dealing with. So I looked up the average contracts and what agencies usually use those NICS codes for federal contracts. Those are Department of State, NASA, Department of Justice, DOT, CDC, for advertising and media buying purposes. But those awards normally average out at about $10 million. So this is a very, very high award for companies that have never done this type of work before for the government. And let me bring you back to this. They said they couldn't find another company that could do this work, right? Well, companies, when federal contracts go out to bid, they're either qualification based or they are fee based. So them saying that they couldn't identify another company to do this work makes me think it was qualifications based. Okay, so what qualifications did they show since they've never done any of this work before that won them this contract? I would love to know. So again, just to summarize, there are over 3,000 companies with those NICS codes that are approved for federal contracting. None of those companies were able to bid on these contracts. They were directly awarded to these two companies. They blacked out the other company that they advertised it to, and they used no other excuses to not advertise other than the state of emergency and the fact that no other companies could do this work. And literally the work, all it is media buying and campaign development. Name me a media agency that can't do those two things. So I just thought that was unbelievable.
Done. That is crazy.
So
the justification says, well, it seems like the fix was in because the declaration of the national emergency regarding immigration allowed them to money launder, grift, whatever.
I can't find. And if you do an NICS code search on those two codes, you'll also find a million other contracts that have been awarded that have reputable media companies that have done them. Like you can click on it, go to their website, look at their work. So this is truly fascinating to me. I know she testified about a lot of shady stuff yesterday, but because I do government contracting, this perked my ears and was like, that doesn't make any sense why that would have been an IDIQ direct award. And it doesn't. It makes no sense specifically. And I'll go back to this award date, February 13, 2025. And published date, March 7th, 2025. Why was the award date before the published date? That makes no sense to me. That's never like that. And again, why is this blacked out? Why can't we see who approved this? So,
Hey, Swells, where was Doge?
I know, right? This $200 million that has been awarded, that's our money, people. That's our money, $200 million. And that is why it's so easy to look up this information, because that's our money. We should be able to see what contractors win our work. And so and that's why the FAR process exists, to make sure that all of these companies that have those NICS codes can compete for this work. They didn't allow that. They direct awarded it to the two companies they wanted that didn't exist until right before the contract was awarded, and have no footprint on the website at all. So that's very interesting to me. I don't know what's going to happen from here, but that's what I found. I wanted to share it with you. So
before you leave, somebody said, ask her to highlight the redacted part and then try to copy it into a blank document. I think people want to read it. So are you in the Discord, Swells?
I am not. No. Mm-mm.
Okay. That's going to change. I'm sorry you have no choice now. Okay. So I think people are curious to learn a little bit more about it. So if you one of my mods will reach out to you. They probably have done it already, knowing them, just to get you in the Discord. So maybe you can help people understand that a little bit more, because my head is spinning right now.
Yeah.
Not aside from the obvious, but the fact that the DHS secretary lying in front of Congress multiple times yesterday, and just how we need to have information like this, so when we're accused of not supporting or defending people who are committing fraud, we could be like, well, here's the thing about fraud.
Yeah. And I did say something wrong, and I apologize. So 3,000 companies in the NAICS codes, NACE codes, which we call them in the industry, 3,000 companies have the 541840. Over 70,000 have the 541613. So they disenfranchised almost 80,000 U.S. companies from $200 million of our money and gave them directly to whoever they want, which I don't know who they are because I can't find any information on them on the web. And they were never awarded a government contract before this. So.
Well, that was incredible work. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for coming up and sharing that information with us. Please get in the Discord. Like I said,
I will.
You're part of
For
the you're part of the family now. You're gum on the shoe. So thank you
Oh,
for
damn
being
it.
there. I appreciate
Okay.
you very
Well,
much.
thanks, y'all. Have a good one.
I appreciate that. See you later. Wow, that was, see? Somebody doing something, right? That's her sweet spot. That's her background. That's how we investigate this kind of stuff. I never would have gone down that road. But thank you for doing that. That's incredible. So here we sit, right? So for those MAGA that's in the chat, right? Again, there. Thank you, Lizette. Proving once again, smartest chat on TikTok, no doubt about it. So MAGA, if you're watching, because I know some of you are in here, most of you may not, get the nuance specifically, but maybe you can understand why it is that we say this entire administration is just one big grift. The jizz jet, cock air aside, the DHS secretary flat out just lying to the American public about how taxpayer dollars were spent, not opened up for bid, targeted specifically for one company and one company only to take this on, even though there's no legitimacy behind said company. So, Swells, thank you so much for doing the work. That was awesome. Appreciate that. Okay. That was great. Yeah, I love that shit.
Hi.
Bring on forensics. Hi, Cookie Shops. How are you today?
I'm good. That just got me like all tingly on the inside.
Seriously.
This is what I was trying to say, and I was hollering in the chat. So I was asking for swells. I was like, please, somebody stop commenting so Steve could see this. Swells. The reason why I was saying highlight, copy, and then put it into a blank document is because supposedly you may be able to see what's been redacted. So that because it happened with the Easting files.
That's a good point.
Right. So that's what I was trying to communicate while she was up on up here in the box, so we could, do some more discovery.
That's a really good point. We learned that lesson because they did such a lousy job redacting. They didn't realize that if you actually copied and pasted, then what was redacted would then become public. That's a really good point. Point.
And then they had
knowing Swells now, I'm sure okay. She said she tried and can't, but I'll put it on Discord. Okay, she said she did try that and can't, but I'll put it on Discord. Okay, there you go. So
well see, and then there's another thing. I'm not in Discord, so I won't be able to see it anyway. I don't even know how to get there.
That's going to change too. We have two new. we have at least two new members of Discord. Again, our mods will reach out to you if you can't find the link to the link tree that's in my bio. You can either copy the user and put. Anyway, we'll reach out. We got you. We'll take care of it.
Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to say, and then this kind of overshadowed what I wanted to say. Okay, breathe. Everybody just kind of take a
deep breath
in and out, because what I'm getting ready to say is going to make some people shift and feel uncomfortable. Okay. Because I noticed the shift in the chat when Steve, you had said this before, and other times when you have mentioned this before. Okay. So when you mention about wanting a matriarchy and then you specify that you want to see women of color, specifically Black women, in leadership positions, and that you will listen to Black women, it makes people uncomfortable. And I wanted to say this. If it makes you uncomfortable to hear that, if it makes you cringe, if you don't speak and you become silent because you don't want to say what you're thinking, then it's probably something that you need to deal with internally, and that it is a bias that's buried real deep down inside of you that which is the reason why you feel the discomfort.
Correct.
So if it does not apply to you, then let it fly. Let it fly. And when you had mentioned about what Jeffrey said about the reason why they didn't want, or somebody, the reason why they didn't want maybe it was your guest who was here before. They didn't want young Black girls, is because they will fight back and their moms will too. Tell mom.
Exactly.
There were people in the chat that was hollering or trying to, I won't say hollering, but that was saying, no, it happens with them too. Nobody said that it didn't happen.
Correct.
And see, that's another part of the discomfort and the quiet bias, which is not really quiet, right? Since you said that. But it was not, the comment and the phrase wasn't, no Black girls are trafficked. That wasn't the comment. He said that they did not want to go, or they had a preference for that. And that Allie Carter comment, no one is saying that it doesn't happen. No one said it does not happen. Again, no one said it does not happen. Nobody said that. So if you're trying to make that, just you're hollering at, you keep saying that, then you have some shadow work to do. You have some shadow work to do, and that's all I need to say.
If you're uncomfortable, good. Be uncomfortable. That's the whole point. Cookie, thank you for saying that. I really, really appreciate you. And like I said, join the Discord. It's a party over there. Listen, the way I say this to people, if I can navigate Discord when my mods will let me, if I don't touch stuff and break it, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Thank you so much.
I love you, friend. Have a good day. Be safe out there.
Bye.
That's the point, right? If it's uncomfortable, then that's good, right? You can't expect change if you're not made to feel uncomfortable, right? That's the whole point. That's why we have these conversations. Challenge conformity. Challenge the systems a little bit. Get in your uncomfort. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. You don't have to do, exactly, Erica. Sit in your discomfort. Just sit there for a little bit. Just ask, and then maybe think for a second without reacting so quickly. Maybe think for a second as to why potentially it makes you feel uncomfortable. You got manifest Erica, just like that. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Hey, good morning. How are you, Steve? I'm doing well. How are you, Steve?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. What's on your mind?
Awesome. I'll make this super quick. What I wanted to say was just in regards to Miss Cookie there is that the reason why we haven't progressed basically as far as we should have in regards to race relations within the United States of America specifically is because of white fragility and white comfort. The mere mention of the word race or racism tends to make white people tense up. And because of that discomfort, they choose their comfort to actually sit in. And, if they don't become argumentative and defensive, then they become evasive, where they just don't want to have the conversation. You have to be uncomfortable because guess what? It's not comfortable for us to feel the racism, the impacts of it. All right. So what we have to think about, and not what we have to think about, what I think white people should think, if they do possess the humanity, because we know that there unfortunately are a lot of people who don't possess empathy. Right. So if you possess empathy, what I would say for you is I would ask you to ask yourself is, why is your comfort more important than my experience? I want people to think about that, but that's all I wanted to add. But yeah, so I hope you have a great day, friend.
Thank you. I love you, friend. I appreciate you very, very much. Have a good day. Be safe out there. Take care. All right. Bye. No notes. Nothing else to say. There's nothing else needs to be said. Let me just take a quick little break here. We've had a lot of activity here. Let me just play this. I'll be right back.
End up leaning. You don't need a cape just to help someone win. Do something simple, do something true, or make a sandwich for a friend, hold the door for someone too. Facts still matter It starts with you. Check on your neighbor, share what you can do. One small action turns into a wave. Do something today, be the change that you crave. Facts still matter, it starts with you. Facts still matter, it starts with you.
It does, in fact, start with you, starts with all of us. Something I was just thinking about, I'll take a little break, something that Erica said about how, and Cookie said and others, we're past good intentions, right? We're just past good intentions. We want this change that we talk about, right? A lot of it has to come from the people who have benefited from the system. And the people that have benefited from the system are people who look like me. In particular, again, system built by, for, to defend and protect people who look like me, primarily white men. The only box I don't check is Christian. Cis, white, hetero, male in America, the most privileged demographic to arguably ever exist. That's debatable. Soon followed by white women. And then there's the other side of that coin about how it's still all men until it's no men, et cetera, et cetera. But if you want change, right? I agree, Kipper. If you want change, then it's going to be uncomfortable. And if you want the kind of change that we're talking about a progressive government led by women, black women in particular, right? Because of what they've experienced, what they tell us. What they tell us every single day. How to move differently through society. What should be important. Base your entire economic agenda. In fact, I've been in the process of writing something about how this concept of trickle-up economics, and Ash, if you're in the chat, I want to thank you for that idea. The trickle-up economic model, where you prioritize the things that should matter the most. Education, healthcare, children, families, all that kind of stuff, and how your societies flourish because the most vulnerable are the ones that are prioritized. Our system is not built like that. It's not designed that way. We hear the concept of trickle down, right? It doesn't work. It's never worked because it doesn't benefit the people that should benefit. So if you are, to Cookie's point, if you felt uncomfortable by that conversation, then good. I'm glad you do. This isn't a safe space for your comfort. It's not. This is a conversation where your convictions and your ideas and your beliefs are going to be challenged because we just want people to understand that intention is no longer good enough. It requires, Kipper knew the assignment, he did. It requires action, which is exactly what our Do Something tour is all about. Reminding people what's at stake, who it is that we're fighting for. It's beyond just your vote. It's beyond just your voice. It's all of it. It's literally all of it. I can push. I can't get you all the way there, but I'll push. Oh my goodness. Jen, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. That's incredibly kind of you. You didn't need to do that, but thank you very, very much. Also to Barb, thank you for your kind support of what we do here. Appreciate you guys. Okay. A lot of folks requested. I promise I'm going to do my best. I don't think I'll get to everybody today, though. So apparently there was a town hall scheduled for J.D. Vance that was scheduled for the 14th, but has been postponed indefinitely. Okay. I wouldn't, if I was him, I wouldn't want to be part of I wouldn't want to be doing a town hall right about now anyway, for sure. Britta B., how are you this morning?
Good morning. Really quickly, I just have one statement. I'm very tired of watching overqualified Black women lose to less than mediocre white men. And I'm not saying Tallarico is not qualified, but he has less qualifications than Crockett. Harris was
Agreed.
the most qualified person that had ever run for the office of presidency. And
Agreed.
I am just, this has been bothering me the last few days. I am just so tired of women of color and Black women especially that are educated, that are qualified, that stand for the people losing. I'm tired.
Britt, I don't disagree. When the time comes, though, if you are in Texas, who do you vote for?
Oh, what do you mean? Oh, obviously you vote for Tyler.
For Tallarico, for James Tallarico.
Right.
That's the message.
Obviously.
That we have to make sure that we understand that. That's the message. I want to make sure that they're, because
100%. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's not a good candidate. I'm not saying he's not, the uniter that everyone says. But again, it's just, it really weighs in his favor and against her that he's a white Christian male.
Yep.
And that just, I'm tired of this country choosing.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. We don't want to. We don't want to.
And I don't disagree with you either.
Yeah, we don't want to diminish. We don't want to diminish him. He's a smart person. He certainly knows politics. He knows how to. He's very influential. He's a good speaker. He's got a good background.
100%.
He's not as qualified.
Right.
As
no,
he's
a great candidate. He's a great candidate. I'm not discrediting that. Like I do see how he speaks. I see how it influences people. And I think that that's important. I'm just tired of the racism and the misogyny in this country. I'm just so tired.
I get it. I'm hoping that in this moment, I'm hoping I can challenge the way in which you presented that.
Of course.
So if I could just give me 30 seconds. So we all agree that Jasmine Crockett was incredibly qualified. It doesn't mean that James Tallarico is not qualified. It just means that I think we collectively can agree that she's potentially more qualified than he is. It doesn't mean that he's a mediocre candidate.
Oh, no. And that's why I was trying to say that he is not who I'm speaking of. Obviously, I'm speaking of like the federal elections. When I say less than mediocre, he is a qualified candidate. I do think that he is viable. I like his messaging, but I just can't, in my own personal, brain, can't get past that. It's just so frustrating. It's just so frustrating.
So we have to get past it, though. That's kind
of
the point.
I'm not saying I'm not on board with him, and I'm not like, yes, Texas, like vote that way. I'm not in Texas. I'm in Arizona. And no, 100%, I'm on board with him as a candidate. I'm just, underneath that, I am not on board with the racism and the misogyny that doesn't put people like Jasmine Crockett in that position, that doesn't put people like Kamala Harris in that position. Like it's just
Kamala. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. No, I get it. I want to make sure that everybody understands the assignment here. Like I said, during primary season, fight and raise money and phone bank and call and door knock for all of your candidates. And then if you don't get the candidate that you want, in particular Jasmine Crockett, then we can mourn. We can take the time to accept the fact that she lost, but we have to be careful when we start saying, because if people only heard the first 30 seconds of your conversation, they would say, "Oh, great, another mediocre white guy. Why should I vote for him?"
Oh, well, I apologize. That's not my message. Yeah. That's not my message.
Yeah, so that's kind of the point. That's kind of the point, right? Because we've got fascism is here, and for us to be able to push back against it, we've got to make sure that we're being very clear in what it is that we're talking about. Okay, does that make sense?
100%. So let me restate that if you are in Texas, I do believe you should be voting for Tyler Rico. I do believe he is the more qualified candidate running against the Republicans who deny wanting to investigate, child predators and rapists and murderers and criminals. And no, we do need to vote Democrats, or the people who say that they're going to go after this corruption, which is typically the Democrats, right? Not the Republicans. We do need to vote those people into the offices that they can investigate impeach, remove, prosecute, and punish the federal traitors. 100%.
Gotcha.
100%.
That's
I'm just saying as like
I
a
got
side. Yeah.
I
But
get
I
you.
appreciate
we all
Steve.
feel the same way. No problem. I mean, that we're all in here. I mean, again, I appreciate taking the feedback. We're all in here to kind of just make sure, because where we have lost elections in the past at the left is because we get a little divided, looking for that nuance that Daniela talked about, that Cookie talked about, that HR talked about. We've got to stop with the the quest for perfection, and understand that we are in a fight to save our freedoms. And I know what you meant, and I appreciate you clarifying. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you.
You got it. You got it. Be safe out there. Words matter. I mean, because especially if you have influence in your circle, right? If you've already got somebody who's kind of like disappointed in the system itself, and then we lay on, and we lay on the I'm not going to say that there were disparaging comments, but less than positive comments. I get what she was trying to say. Others might not. That's it. Appreciate that. Okay. He's the only choice to vote for. That's the point at this. That's the point at this point. Hi, Kelly. How are you today?
Hi. This is my first time doing this, but I wanted to talk a little bit about perspective in Texas. I'm a retired middle school English teacher, taught mainly 8th grade, like pre-AP, so advanced kids. And when they first came in my class, my pleasure. When they first came in my class, I would say, I'm going to challenge everything you believe, not because what you believe is wrong, but you should know why you believe what you believe. And I taught, for the majority of my career, I taught in a predominantly suburban, upper class, white community. So one of the things that we talked about was inherent racism and the fact that they don't see it because they're raised in it. So one of the things that we went through before we started our unit on genocides and whatever was talking about that, and also propaganda. But I gave them a task. You're walking out of the movie theater late at night. You had to go to the bathroom, your ride's gone, or your ride's there, but everybody else is gone. And you see a group of 5, and I used different groups of people. And of course, they were comfortable with white people. They were comfortable with Asians. When they said a group of Asians, they're like, we're going to throw books at us. But as we moved into different racial groups, they could see that their reaction was automatically different. They automatically went on high alert as white people. And I said, that's your inherent racism. You don't realize it's there because that's what not only have you been raised in that, you're surrounded by all these other people who have the same view. And until you start widening, burst your bubble, get out there, start meeting people, understand where they're coming from. It was the same thing with the task where I said, okay, a kid steals an orange. Oh, he should be put in jail. Well, what if that kid steals the orange because he's feeding his little sister because he's the only one taking care of her because the parents are gone? Oh, well, now that changes things. Yeah, because not every situation is the same. We need to stop trying to put everything in a box. But, again, I taught 8th graders. Clearly, I was radical teacher, which is part of why I'm retired now instead of teaching in Texas, because, I wouldn't be able to teach any of that. But I think that there are a lot of people who are so adamant that they aren't racist because they can't see that they have been raised with those thoughts, and they think they're benign.
Correct. Yeah, you don't think you're racist in a system that supports your racism. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Thank you for that, Kelly.
And
I appreciate that. That's a good perspective.
It's until we can get them. It's easier when I have a classroom full of 30 kids that are held captive, technically, and trust me to help them broaden their minds. How do you get adults to do the same thing? Agreed. That's where we need to be. And that's the problem with the voting in Texas.
I agree. I think somebody made this comment in the chat that said, if you trusted Crockett, then trust her endorsement of James Tallarico.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that. And, as a teacher, I was very torn between the two as well. But I guess my point is that people who are sitting there saying, no, I didn't vote. I did not vote for Crockett's didn't get votes because of, her race. They're not seeing that they're sitting in it. They're sitting in it.
They are.
One of the things we absolutely have to do is find a way to communicate to at least the decent people in our communities that they're not seeing their own inherent race, because they are so hesitant. I'm a good person. I'm not racist. I'm not. They can't wrap their. It's just like the same thing when you say white privilege and how they react to that. And
really
that's what we got to do.
Thank you for being a teacher, and I appreciate that. We all know how I feel about teachers. Thanks for being here, Kelly. I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for the time.
You got it. Have a good day. Yeah, these inherent biases that exist. I mean, it's holding us back. I mean, this is there's an opportunity here. Listen, I'm always going to see. I am a glass half full kind of person. Always have been, by hook or by crook. It's a strength and it's a weakness. I just see this as an opportunity, right? I really do. We will survive this. The sun will come up at some point. We will get through this. The question is, how then do we choose to respond? Are we going to demand systemic change? Part of that systemic change is being invested for the long term. It's not going to change overnight. You're not going to get an entire cabinet of left-leaning progressives who want to force the issue of the change in society that we want. It's going to take time. It's going to take multiple generations, potentially. I will likely not live to see it. Many of us in the chat today won't either. But our kids could. Their kids could. So again, the lesson learned from the Black community, Black women in particular, invested for the long haul, right? The Montgomery bus protest, 13 months, if not 14. Okay? Knowing full, all right, gotta check here. Okay, so interesting. Thank you, Jess. So Robert Garcia just posted this. Oh, I actually have a sounder. I like this. So there was a vote in the House Oversight Committee with United Democratic members to subpoena Pam Bondi. The DOJ just announced that they plan to post more e-files. This is after they said there was no more to produce. We are going to end this White House cover-up. Again, there was a subpoena request by the Oversight Committee to have Pam Bondi appear for questioning. One day after they do that, after they told us that there was no more files to be released, they have suddenly, coincidentally, decided to release files. So again, as we are just discussing, right? As we were just discussing, there has to be a willingness to commit to the long game. The lessons that have got to have learned from the past. We're not going to fix this. We're not going to change this shit overnight. It's not going to happen. I know, it's just magic, right? Suddenly happened. That's because Pam Bondi does not want to go for questioning. We'll see. I'm sure she's still going to be subpoenaed. So are you committed to the long haul? If not, then tap out now, quite frankly. I like the analogy that I've come up with about the shattering of the plate. The conservative right, the evangelical right, the Christian nationalist right has been in this fight for 50 years, reshaping the judiciary, chipping away at the small d democratic institutions, stacking state houses and legislatures, using executive orders to try to govern until somebody challenges it, challenging the Supreme Court, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? Took them 50 years. Roughly speaking. Remember the post-civil rights movement, the neo-Yahtzee cult in our country were angry, right? So then you slide into the 70s and then women get rights to their body. Lo and behold, Roe gets passed. So the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society and all those groups couldn't come out and say, well, we're bona fide racists. We got to do something to go after this racist, the black people getting their right to vote, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they decided to glom on to the abortion rights issue. right? And that started gradually chipping away. It took them 50 years. 50 years to get what they wanted, which is a change in the judiciary, and then Donald Trump behind the Oval Desk, the Oval Office, to then go after women's rights to their body. That's where it started. You start talking about chipping away at freedoms, and then all of a sudden you've got more people on the court and more people in this government who want to go after all these rights of liberties, right, that have been passed over the last 50 years, or Burgerfell, same-sex marriage, use of mifepristone, and now the Voting Rights Act. So they've been playing this game. If we expect it, because we want immediate gratification, just as humans we do, like you want it right now, right? If you're in it for the immediate gratification, then you're not going to get that. You've got to be willing to commit to the long haul, which is why we say involvement now, organize now, making plans for the future. You want a progressive government? You got to be patient. You got to make sure that you are advising people and supporting people and campaigning for people and donating for people who will help you get a progressive government that starts at the State House. All right. Okay, I've got a little bit of breaking news. Hold on a second. Let's see, there's a less escalation. Tehran's drones have targeted the passenger terminal of an airport in Azerbaijan and a school near the village close to the border with Iran. Tehran has since denied involvement in the incident. At least 2 people were injured after drones targeted the passenger terminal of Azerbaijan's international airport. According to a statement, one drone struck the airport's terminal building while another fell near a school in the village of Shakarabad. We strongly condemn these drone attacks launched on the territory of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which resulted in damage to the airport and the injuries of 2 civilians. Videos from the scene acquired by Euronews show a drone flying towards the airport, damage to its main terminal, and the emergency crews are on site. In another video seen by Euronews, the drone is seen hitting the airport with a large explosion and a cloud of smoke appearing following the strike. The Azerbaijani president has accused Iran of committing an act of terror. Following the incident, today, Iran committed an act of terror against the territory of Azerbaijan, against the state of Azerbaijan. The Iranian state fired an unmanned aerial vehicle on the territory near the airport, according to security councils from Azerbaijan. A lot of people are now talking about false flags. People now are saying that there may be, CIA and other intelligence agencies' involvement to attempt to escalate this, so that it becomes more justification for more use of force by the U.S. military and others. Buckle up, friends. Just buckle up. Stay focused, though, please. Hi, Christy. How are you? Christy, are you there? Christy? Progressive in your pocket. You might have fallen asleep. All right. Exactly. Buckle up. Yeah. I am your father. Long-sighted.
Hey, I'm so sorry. I clicked the join link when Cookie was on because I wanted to I figured I could talk to her directly, but obviously that was 20 or 25 minutes ago. So because I just enjoy the dialogue, and
yeah.
She was referencing things that I said, and I wanted to dig deeper because I think it's really valuable. So anyways, I'm not going to tie you up or anything. I think the show's going fantastic, and everything your guests have said have been awesome. So anyways,
appreciate that.
Maybe next time I'll catch her. So cheers.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. No notes. So just to kind of summarize just a little bit today, and then I'll just cover on a couple more things before we end today. I would not be up here every day pushing on many of us to get involved if I didn't think there was a hope for things to be better. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't be doing this, right? Steve would like that. Absolutely. How did you know that, Steph? Anyway, leave that right there. This is important to me, right? It's really, really important because I just see the opportunity. If it was, boring politics, sure, we all crave those days. Sure. But this has always existed, right? This has always existed. This has always been a situation where the rich and the powerful get away with shit. That the corruption, so that those people who are getting away with shit can continue to enrich themselves. It's always been here. We, as I mentioned, as Danielle and I talked about the entitlement and the apathy of the American voter, especially white people, right? When you're comfortable, right? You just, it's not so bad. I'm fine. I'll be fine. That's privilege, right? Meanwhile, marginalized communities have always been in the fight. Always. Every single time. They're always in the fight. So is this the opportunity finally where people, maybe people are seeing this, 58-year-old white dude who's got tattoos, who rides motorcycles, who plays guitar, who hunts and fishes. Maybe they'll say like, okay, well, he's not dissimilar to me. Nail polish aside, apparently, because that's still very triggering, but whatever. Maybe that's the message. Maybe this is sort of the match. And I'm not saying this, please understand, this is not about me in any way. I just want to use my privilege. I just want to use it. I just want to use my privilege for good, right? To say, just to remind people, just to remind people of what's going on and why it's so important that we start to push on this and we start to make a difference, right? Maybe it's just my color choices. I don't know. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know if that's what it's going to take, but I hope so. I have a little bit more reporting. It looks like there's some crankiness from the president about Kristi Noem. Apparently, let me see if I can find that. I saw this in the chat. Is the president angry? Let's see. Apparently, Trump is furious that Noem said under oath in her Senate Judiciary hearing that he had advanced knowledge of the $220 million DHS ad campaign and approved its release. So yeah, she did say that. Apparently he's furious. Apparently he's floating the idea around members of Congress if she should be fired. Well, yeah, she should be. She should have been fired a while ago. No doubt about it, because she is absolutely incompetent, corrupt, stealing money from taxpayers, cannot do her job, calling people domestic terrorists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, that's what's going to happen there is what's going to happen there. Back to the mission, back to the assignment. I, again, would not do this every day if I didn't think things could be better. This is the call to white men. This is the call to white women. Because other groups have been telling you for a long time. There's other people on this app that are doing great work, calling out misogyny, calling out predatory behavior, calling out toxic masculinity. And I want to commend everybody for doing that. And I will do the same. I would also like to ask that you are the reason that we can't have nice things. You are the reason we don't have health care. It's not because of women. It's not because of marginalized communities. It's not because of black women. It's not because of immigrants. It's not because of the LGBTQIA community. It's because of white men. That's the reason we don't have health care. That's it. Plain and fucking simple. Look at the people in Congress who vote against it. Shocker. Shocker. That's the reason. The reason we have a tax code that benefits the rich as the poor get poorer and the middle class disappears is because of white men. Period. The reason that we are not addressing violent crime and rapists are getting let out of prison is because of, wait for it, white men. Perpetrators of it and judges and the system. If you've got power, you've got privilege, and you look like me, you're likely going to get away with it. The reason that women aren't believed in our society is primarily because of white men. See, Butterbee? If it doesn't apply, let it fly. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. If you're not one of those people, who's participating in this, then ignore it. If you are uncomfortable by it, which you obviously are, then maybe there's something to unpack there. Okay? I am very comfortable calling it out. Very, very comfortable calling it out. Because it's the truth. There's a reason that we say it's all men until it's no men. There's a reason we say it. Right? That does not mean that there are not good men out there. Of course that doesn't mean that. Of course we know that. The situation, though, the system is the issue, Butterby. And if you are so triggered by it, if you want to request, we can talk about it. And I can tell you why I feel this way. It's not about bashing. Exactly. It's not about bashing. It's just the truth. Why don't you request? We can talk about it. I can indoctrinate you. Okay. So let me see if you're willing to have a conversation. This is why people don't vote Democrat to each your own. It's not about eating our own, Butterby. Please, I just sent you an invitation. You can chirp from the chat, but maybe you're willing to have a conversation. And I can change your mind. I can tell you why it's an issue. And I can hopefully say, listen, it's okay to be uncomfortable. As I've been deconstructing from the patriarchy, I had to learn these lessons too. It's not easy. Nobody wants to be blamed for stuff, and nobody is blaming you individually, Butterby, unless you've got some guilt on your hands, or worse, and you're afraid to unpack it. Don't be. Just be like, shit, never thought of it that way. Don't get defensive. I don't get offended when somebody tells me it's all white men until it's all men until it's no men. I don't get offended by that. The reason I don't get offended by it is because I know it to be true. Okay. No. Thanks for proving my point. Appreciate you. Let's see if there's anybody else in the... Own your fucking shit. Just own your shit. Just own it. Fellas, we just got to do better. If maybe we could just start with, I don't know, not raping women, that might be a good place to start at least. That's just me. Again, if the shit doesn't apply, then let it fly. If you've not learned anything today from people saying, listen, we've got a lot of things that we can do. To Daniela's point, 350 million of us with 500 million guns. We don't need to be, the government should be afraid of us. But if you're going to live in that little spot and you're going to feel triggered by some dude calling out your whiteness, another white guy, I can't help you with that. I can remind you why it's important. And then white women, y'all need to do the same with other white women. You got to call them out too. Because they benefit from the patriarchy. You may not admit it, but you do. So you got to challenge it. You got to get people to think differently. There's a massive fucking opportunity in front of us. I see it. I can see it there. I can see it. My concern is, we're angry today and things will settle down a little bit and then we'll be like, okay, we'll go back to using the same dish rag. Right? So, I don't know what to tell you. All right, I have one more thing I wanted to kind of cover today. Let's see if I can find it here. I want to hear from Jasmine because she, in her amazing way, really, really broke down Kristi Noem yesterday in her questioning, and which is part of why Trump is angry because Kristi Noem has just lied and threw him under the bus. So here you go.
Y'all breaking the law. Are you familiar with a child by the name of Liam Ramos?
I am.
All right. So Liam was at this Dilley facility. And it just so happened that we had put in our 7 days notice and y'all had grabbed him 6 days prior to our visit. So we were able to go and visit Liam. Are you aware of the court order that came down that released Liam from custody?
I am.
And are you aware that the judge said The case has its genesis in an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children. This court and others regularly send undocumented people to prison and orders them deported, but do so by proper legal procedures. Are you aware of that?
Yes, and I would disagree with the judge on several
I'm
points
sure you would, but can you tell me whether or not you have a law degree?
Father chose to.
Can you tell me whether or not you have a law degree?
If I have what?
A law degree.
No, I do not have a
Okay,
law degree.
and you do understand, because I can go through a bunch of court cases and orders that I disagree with from the Supreme Court, that ultimately, that is the order of the court. That is what you follow, and if you have an issue, you appeal it up, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. The court went on to say, apparent also is the government's ignorance of an American historical document called the Declaration of Independence. 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson enumerated grievances against a would-be authoritarian king over his nascent nation. Among others were, he has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. He has kept us among, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. Are you aware that he wrote that? Do you know that he was writing about ICE that falls under you?
The judge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I will yield, but I do have 2 UCs.
Preach. Put her on blast. You can disagree with the law, with the judge's ruling, Christy, but it doesn't mean you could get to violate it. All right, I've got one more bit of sound that I'm going to play for you guys. This 60 Minutes has been doing some investigative research into judges that have become targets of threats. Remember, we've done this. We've talked about this before, and our friends on the right don't want to believe it. That we know the overwhelming majority of politically oriented violence comes from the right. It's not even questionable. I don't even want to debate the facts anymore. It's one of those things that why waste your time? They're not going to believe it anyway because they're going to find a way to pivot around it. But we have more and more proof every single day. And 60 Minutes has been doing this investigation. So it's about 15 minutes. It's worth it to play before we end today. So real quick there for a second, constitutionally protected right of birthright citizenship. The judge rules in support of the Constitution, and the violent mob led by guess whom? White dudes use that as an opportunity. That comment. And you know who still doesn't wear masks? Judges. For you ICE defenders, those of you who defend masked thugs that are unaliving American citizens, they wear masks. Judges are under threat, according to this report. Literally threatened, their lives are threatened, and they're still not wearing masks now, are they? Are listening to a 60 Minutes report done recently about how judges are under threat that have just ruled against the president based on constitutional norms, based on the law. In other words, judges then appeal it. But you go out there saying these radical judges are violating the law, which you as an attorney know is not the fucking case. And then you wonder why there's violence? Okay. That's the fight, right? So again, the choice is clear. So I'm going to go through the exercise of debating the incidences of political violence. I despise political violence, right? I despise it. I absolutely despise political violence. There is no doubt the overwhelming majority of political violence over the last decade has come from the right. Going back 20 years, it's come from the right. There's just no denying it. It's not even a debate worth having, because the only people that are telling the right that the left is more violent are their leaders on the right. You've got all kinds of independent agencies. You've got numerous departments of justice under different administrations, all say the same thing. Sure, there are incidences of people on the left calling for violence, but it pales in comparison. It's not even close. And the question again, or the reminder is, a judge doing their job, and in many cases, a lot of these judges appointed by Republicans doing their job, and their lives are threatened, and they're not wearing masks. They're just not. Conservative voters, MAGA voters, angry white men, you do not have to debase yourself daily in support of the president who despises you. He is using you to enrich himself. You're not going to get an invitation to the ballroom. You're not going on Air Force One. You're not going to Mar-a-Lago. You're not going to the Bedminster golf clubs. You're not going anywhere. He is using you. He is manipulating you. He is telling you whom to be afraid of. And the person that you should be afraid of is him, because he's taking your rights away. You are expendable. You are chaff. You are shrapnel. You are the collateral damage. You understand that he's lying to you every day to get you more and more angry, so that you'll do things like this, so that you can get judges out of the way so he can get his fascistic agenda passed. Do you think he's going to bail you out? Do you think he's going to issue you a pardon too? He's not. You're angry for the wrong reasons. You're angry at the wrong people. You make threats against people. I get death threats. I'm not comparing myself to judges. I get them every single week. But you know what? Those of you who send me death threats weekly, I want you to have health care, mental health care in particular. I don't want your children to be in a position where they don't have access to food. I want a tax code that works for you. I want more education, a better education system, so that future generations of yours are not exposed to the same things that you've been exposed to. It's not necessary. You've made a choice. You have decided that you've put all your eggs in this particular basket. For what reason? To what end? Thank you for a great show today, guys. It was just an honor having Daniela here and HR here and all of our amazing guests and our panelists. So what we do here, and I appreciate you all hanging in there. Just as a reminder, if you want to continue to support what we do and our push to get out on the road and have more conversations with people like this face-to-face, then please support the Do Something Tour. You can find Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all at Factsstillmatter. Last plug, go to the link tree in the bio. The first link you'll see is to the Do Something Tour Instagram page. Please follow there. We're going to raid RTP. RTP is doing the work as well, calling truth to power. And I appreciate you guys all being here. We'll be back tomorrow for Free Speech Friday. We might have another guest tomorrow, depending on how the day goes. This is a fight, friends. What side of history do you want to be on? It's a simple question.